GT3 for True Speed Autosport, run out of Southern California. And on the pole in GTM, 8th on the starting grid, Rodrigo Baptista in car number 3. That's a Bentley Continental GT3 run by K-Pax Racing and in conjunction with the Flying Lizard Group. On the 7th position on the grid, Scott Hargrove in car number 96. That's the FAF Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R. That car was quick through practice yesterday. Unfortunately, this morning in qualifying, Scott Hargrove had an incident, and that team was left with quite a lot of work to do before the start of today's race. He will line up in the 7th position. 6th on the grid, Alvaro Parent in the Bentley Continental GT3 for K-Pax Racing with Flying Lizard Motorsports. That is car number 9 for Alvaro Parent from Portugal, former series champion. 5th on the grid, Daniel Morad in car number 2. That's the Mercedes AMG GT3 for CRP Racing. Onto the second row of the grid on the outside, car 00 is the Aston Martin V12 Vantage GT3 for the TRG Group, the Racers Group out of Petaluma, California. Can't miss that car. It sounds absolutely glorious with its V12 engine. Spencer Papelli will be at the wheel of that machine during this race. Car number 26, Daniel Karlowitz from Germany, making his first start in North America in the Callaway Competition USA Callaway Corvette C7 GT3R. And a fine debut it has been so far. He will line up 3rd on the grid. Moving on to the front row, making his debut also in the Pirelli World Challenge, is Michael Christensen from Denmark in the Allegra Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R. That is car number 24. The cars are just starting their second pace lap prior to the start of this race. It will be green next time around. Allegra Motorsports, by the way, is based in Tampa, Florida. So there's a car to cheer on. Car number 24 for Michael Christensen. And on the pole position, also making his debut in the Pirelli World Challenge this weekend for R. Ferry Motorsport in a Ferrari 488 GT3. Quickest in both of the practice sessions. Fastest again in qualifying this morning aboard car number 61, all the way from Finland, is Tony Vilander. That is our starting lineup for today's race. It'll be 50 minutes in length. And with the weather conditions, as we can see here, if you're on the ground, it's dry at the moment. We've had a few sprinkles, a brief shower a little while ago. The skies are grey, and whether we will get some more rain, well, we will find out pretty shortly. It was a bit of a guessing game for the teams out in the paddock area before they brought their cars to the grid. Maybe half an hour ago, they were thinking, well, maybe we're going to need wet weather tyres. But no, it's dry at the moment. All of the 11 starters are on slick Pirelli P0 tyres for the start of this race. The field is beginning to group together on the run through the final couple of corners, getting ready for the green flag. It'll be Tony Vilander and Michael Christensen on the front row. Daniel Karlowitz and Spencer Papelli on row 2. Daniel Morad and Alvaro Parent on row 3. Scott Hargrove and Rodrigo Baptista on row 4. Then Parker Chase and Yuki Hirata. And bringing up the 11 car field, Martin Fuentes from Mexico City in car number 07. The pace car is a classic BMW M4. Leads the car through the final couple of corners, through that very fast chicane that caught out Scott Hargrove this morning. Now into the final turn 13 and 14. The sweeping right-hander that leads them onto the runway here at the Alfred Whitted Municipal Airport in St. Petersburg. The safety car will pull onto pit lane. It will leave Tony Vilander in charge of the field as they bring the starters up toward the green flag. Steady, steady, steady. The green flag waves, and Tony Vilander gets the power down beautifully. And the Callaway Corvette from 3rd on the grid dives to the inside. He's looking to make a move. It's 3-4 abreast going into turn 1. Karlowitz makes a move down the inside, but he carries way too much speed. Goes straight on at the first corner. Oh, there's a contact there for that. Oh my goodness, there's a Bentley in the wall. The other Bentley was fortunate not to get involved in that as well. And also Parker Chase is involved there as well. So the yellow flags are waving. This will be a full course caution. But well, Daniel Karlowitz, it was looking good for a few seconds, but then he realised he was carrying too much. Oh no, there's Spencer Papelli in the wall as well. We've got 3 of the cars in difficulties. Daniel Karlowitz in that Callaway Corvette has got the car back underway again. He had to go straight on into the escape road at turn 1, carrying way too much speed at the apex. There's an experience for you in North America, and that will bring out the full course caution. But most of the cars that we believe are going to be able to continue, but Spencer Papelli in that 00 Aston Martin, the LaSalle Solutions Adobe Road Winery car, that looks like its day is done. Also car number 9, that's a series champion from 2 years ago. Damage to the front end of the K-Pax Bentley Continental. Parker Chase in the True Speed Autosport Audi. Doesn't appear to be any damage in that car, but clearly the engine isn't running at the moment. We'll have to see whether he can get that car underway. Jeff Lepper has hot-footed it up here to join me in the booth. And Jeff, that was a bit of a disastrous start, unfortunately.
It sure was, and I think with the track conditions and the rain and the weather, 2 pace laps around the 1.8, a lot of folks fighting for position down there in turn number 1, that caused that pandemonium there. I think a little too exuberant. You can't win it on the first corner, but you can definitely lose it.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened to a bunch of these guys. And really what happened to Alvaro Apprentice, it was tough to see because the whole schmozzle down there at turn 1 was really caused by Daniel Karbets diving down to the inside. He was clearly right up tight against the wall. Tony Villander squeezed him right down close to that wall, but there was a car width in there, so he went for that gap, did Karbets. Unfortunately, he was carrying way too much speed when he got to the apex, so that meant nobody else behind him could turn in. So everybody else had to go straight initially as well. They were able to shuffle their way around, but it is Daniel Morad who came out with the lead of this motor race. He started in the 5th position, but he's made it through to the front. And as in all of the other races so far today, the pole sitter, I don't think has made it through the lead through turn 1, has he, Jeff?
No, I think in the USF 2000, Pro Mazda, and all those races, never made it on the Indy Lights. So, but what a great start for Daniel Morad, just perfect timing. And how about Martin Fuentes, that number 07 Hublot Ferrari, up into 5th overall, first in our AM category. I think with a lot of the chaos there. Not sure what happened with the Aston Martin. And you saw Lavella Perrint get turned there a little bit earlier into the left wall. And poor Parker Chase, just nowhere for him to go. Had to try to avoid the Bentley coming across his nose. He sort of just nosed it in the wall, but quite possibly popped that car out of gear. And once that happens, you have to pull the car back into neutral, do a full reset, and all the computers on these cars get that car refired again and try to get going. Unfortunately, Parker Chase loses a lap.
Yeah, has he even got going at all yet? I haven't seen that car come around, I don't think. So right now we're missing 3 of the 11 starters. That's not a good way to start this race, but there's certainly going to be some quick guys here going to be working their way up the order, including Daniel Karbets. He's going to take the restart at the back of the field in the 7th position, 8th position, but he's certainly got a fast car. We've seen that, and if he can be a little bit more patient once we get back to green flag racing, maybe he can work his way through toward the front of the field. That's certainly his intention. Got a lot of success in Germany and in Europe in general, has Daniel Karbets, particularly in the ADAC Masters Championship. He's finished in the top 3 in 5 of the last 6 years. He's also a former winner of the FIA GT3 Championship as well. So a lot of experience, just not experience here or in North America, number 1, and number 2 on a temporary circuit where, as we're watching the field coming through turn 1, you can see those painted lines at the end of that runway 7 here at the Alfred Whittard Municipal Airport. And those painted lines, particularly with that little bit of moisture we had earlier on, maybe about an hour before the start of this race, during IndyCar qualifying, in fact, makes it really, really slippery. Daniel Karbets found out that to his cost.
That's Parker Chase, unfortunately, holding his left arm down a little bit, and you have to be prepared on that steering wheel with the way the wheels are really molded around your fingers. If you have the wheel turned or cocked a little bit when you go into the wall, it can snap that wheel. It looks like his left arm might have got a little bit of a force or left hand there, so hopefully he'll be okay, but he looks like he is out of his car, so we will not see the youngster in the Audi R8. 17 years old, just turned 17 here a few days ago in that Audi R8. No fault of his own, just trying to avoid an incident. Unfortunately, it puts him out of the race. Daniel Morad first. Go back to second. Scott Hargrove had a big incident in that car in the qualifying session. Took the right front off that Porsche. They had some damage to the bodywork. All brand new components on the right front. Steering rack, A-arms, upper arms, upright, brake rotor, brake caliper, wheels, all replaced on Scott Hargrove's car. That FAF Automotive team doing a great job to get him back underway, sitting in P2, and Vilander there back in 3rd.
Yeah, he was able to salvage the position there, 3rd place there for Tony Villander, our pole sitter. He was one of the guys that was just unable to turn into turn 1 because the Callaway Corvette was in his path. So he had to wait for Karbets to scoot on through, and once he was passed and down the escape road, then Tony Villander was able to turn into the corner. But by that time, a couple of cars had got past him. He was perhaps lucky not to get some involved in any contact there as well.
And as we saw at Circuit of the Americas a little while, we'll have to wait and see if Kyle Witzel's going to any further penalties at all of that. You may not make contact, but if you cause an incident, even if there is no contact, there still could be penalties to happen. So we'll have to wait and see what happens if the race officials, Brian Till, Peter Roberts, Brian Hughes, determine if that was a over driving, so to speak, maybe an exuberant move there going to the inside like that. And we'll have to wait and see if there's going to be any further penalties. Not sure what happened with Spencer Pompelli. That's a little bit later on where he is stopped. So not sure if there was some damage earlier from the contact with the Bentley and Parker Chase.
Yeah, one assumes that to be the case. Certainly Daniel Karwitz, he's pretty much penalised himself, hasn't he, going to the back of the field. I don't think he was really involved in the other three cars getting together. That was sort of later in the corner, because he was, by that stage, he was already halfway to Clearwater down the escape road there. But what it did cause, of course, was a big mess behind him. All these cars shuffling position, and they were much closer than they really needed to be as they headed into turn 2. It funnels down there the racetrack in turn 2. We've seen a lot of incidents there in the past. Unfortunately, another one to start this race as well. So still under caution, but still plenty of time to go in this race. Still got well over 40 minutes. We'll take a bit of a breather and get ready for the restart once they've got those cars out of harm's way.
I want to give a huge thank you to our Pirelli World Challenge safety crew. They had the Chevrolet right behind the full field there, going behind them to pull down and make sure that if something was to happen on the first lap, they could be right on scene. And they were handling those two vehicles there on the exit of turn number 1. So getting that done there. And it's one of those things that's better to have it and not need it than it is to need it and not have it. So we really appreciate them being there to do that.
Very true. And a big thank you also to all the corner workers and the marshals here and the volunteers, without whom this Grand Prix of St. Petersburg wouldn't take place. Hats off to everybody who's involved in the organisation process here, and all of the volunteers who put their time into making this event the success that it is. It's long days for everybody, but boy, what an event we turn out here every year on the streets of St. Petersburg. Glorious setting here, isn't it, with downtown just behind us, away from the airport, and then the harbour front here as well. It really is a glorious setting. Great place to go racing, and a really challenging racetrack that the drivers and teams all thoroughly enjoy. So still under caution, and run down the order for you. It's car number 2, Daniel Morad, that leads the way. In second place is car number 96, Scott Hargrove. In third place, the pole sitter, Tony Villander, that's car 61. Michael Christensen, who started alongside on the front row, is in fourth position in car number 24. Then there's a 07 of Martin Fuentes, who started 11th at the tail end of the field, up into the 5th position, now ahead of Rodrigo Baptista, the surviving Bentley car number 3. Then Yuki Hirata, the Lamborghini car number 55. Daniel Karwitz in the number 26 Callaway Corvette. Unfortunately, they're the only 8 cars that are running. We see the sister Bentley being towed away. Extensive damage to the front end of that car. That's going to take a lot of work overnight to get that car back out tomorrow. That's the K-Pax Racing with Flying Lizard Motorsport entry. And yeah, severe front end damage. And Parker Chase, number 19 Audi for True Speed Autosport, and Spencer Pompelli in the TRG Aston Martin also appear to be taking no further part in the proceedings this afternoon.
That K-Pax Racing team, Jim Huey, team owner there, I know that team has enough parts and pieces to get that Bentley back underway, assuming there's no chassis damage to that. And I know we want to try to get as many points. There's still a race tomorrow for these these gentlemen here in the GT category, so they're going to want to try to get these cars fixed up and back underway as quickly as possible. No practices or anything tomorrow, so that's going to be a fresh car having being rebuilt overnight. You feel for the crews, that's the worst part. But especially in our GT4 race coming up next with GTS category and those GT4 homologated cars, we got 28 of those cars, so a little bit more pandemonium. Hopefully not, but with 28 cars in that category, and they race first thing in the morning tomorrow. So not first thing, obviously, there's a couple of support races before that, but that's not a lot of turnaround time if they have a problem. So I know a lot of these teams, the unsung heroes, all throughout here, all these team members and these crews that prep and maintain these cars. Usually the driver gets the glory, but you got to give all the prep work and all the maintenance and everything that gets done to these cars to these teams. And it looks like a few of these in our GT category working a late night tonight.
Yeah, it does. Not exactly the way they didn't want to start this season, that's for sure. They want to get through clean here because they've got another couple of races just in 2 weeks' time at Circuit Americas over in Texas. So to leave here with damage and then have to repair the cars again for 2 weeks' time isn't good. And even worse than that, they've got to repair the cars again for tomorrow. Let's have a look at the restart, a replay of the start once again. And you can see Daniel Karwitz he's trying to be ushered over towards the wall by Tony Villander, but he just left his braking too late. Actually, Villander left his braking a little bit too late as well. That enabled Daniel Morid to get the car woed up at the apex of the corner and take the lead as they went through turn one. And then in the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th behind them, a whole big mess there in turn 2 as well. Damage to 3 cars.
Spencer Pompelli, you see right front damage to his car. It looks like he was on the inside of Alvaro Parent. Not sure what was the cause of his issue or not. Looks like he's say hi to Spencer. I know that's tough for Spencer Pompelli there in that racers group, LaSalle Solutions, Aston Martin V12. And if you weren't around for qualifying or any of the action yesterday, the sound that comes out of that Aston Martin and that V12, truly glorious coming down the front stretch here. We got flat 6 in the Porsche, the V8, the twin turbocharged V8, the V10 in the Audis, and the 12-cylinder in the Aston Martin. Really get a pick your poison on what kind of cars you like here in the Pirelli World Challenge, all the different makes and manufacturers that we have. Getting word that the 1.9 of Parker Chase in that Performance Motorsports Group Audi R8 LMS was trying to get that car back down on pit lane. They can hook it back up, get all the computers reset, put that youngster back in the car, and he can at least try to go out. The way that the point structure works, too, if you can complete half of the laps of the overall race leader, you get scored for points. So 4 AM cars here this weekend, he can still salvage 4th place points, assuming nothing else happens with the 3 drivers that are still there, Martin Fuentes, Rodrigo Baptista, and Yuki Hirata in the Lamborghini. If they don't have any problems, there's still a good chance that Parker might even get a podium out of this if that can get that car back to their pit area and get all the computers reset on that car.
Yeah, and what a disappointment there for Spencer Pompelli, a former winner here on the streets of St. Petersburg a couple of years ago in the GTS division, driving a Ford Mustang on that occasion. But this time he doesn't get beyond the he made as far as the 3rd corner, I suppose, but clearly that car damaged to the right front suspension, or presumably to the toe link to the suspension arm, to the steering arm, and unable to have any steering input. And at the end of that car's day, there's another replay again of this incident. All the cars, Spencer Pompelli got kind of squeezed wide there, and he and Alvaro Parent just made contact there right on the exit of turn, right up against that wall on the left-hand side of the racetrack. It's kind of an unusual incident to take place there, and most unfortunate, both of those two. And for Parker Chase, nowhere to go either, just kind of trapped on the outside line.
Yeah, and you saw, I don't think Spencer was really at fault there. He was just wrong place at the wrong time. Got into kind of the pit maneuver there for Alvaro Parent, so left side damage, and then the right side damage when he came across the track with really no steering, no brakes. I'm sure there's a lot of damage to the left front wheel already on that car. But Daniel Murad, really the deal in this program with that DeVilbiss Mercedes from CRP Racing came together last week. It was only announced this week that he would be the driver in that car, and the success that he had behind the wheel with Ryan Dial at VIR, holding off 2017 Pirelli World Challenge overall GT champ Pat Long lap after lap during his stint, and then ultimately giving the car over to Ryan Dial and then clinching their first win in the debut of race number 2 at Virginia International Raceway, I think solidified his ride in that car for this season, and really glad to have him behind the wheel. We're hoping for the announcement on who was going to be his co-driver here in the Sprint X category coming up in 2 weeks at Circuit of the Americas. So trying to get that out of Nick Short is sort of like pulling teeth. It might be one of those. We'll have to wait and see what happens when we're on track at Austin.
That's right, and Daniel Murad also, he started off the season and his career in the Pirelli World Challenge with that win in race 2 at VIR, ended the season last year with a win at Circuit of the Americas as well, so bookended that season for him in the Sprint X with a victory, and so he comes into this season, very much on a roll. Qualifying didn't go the way he wanted, certainly, down in the 5th position, but he was only just about a half a second off the ultimate pace set by Tony Villander, so that's not a bad effort at all. And now he finds himself in the lead of this race as a result of that schmozzle down in turn 1 and 2.
And with that team, CRP Racing, stalwart here in the Pirelli World Challenge, they've been around for about I think, 10 or 11 years now, straight through in Pirelli World Challenge. Ran Corvettes for a little while, and then the Nissan GTR here at St. Pete, and then moving into this Mercedes-Benz AMG, really doing superb job prepping that car, getting it ready here, and a lot of support from Hawk Performance throughout the years as well. So a lot of good stuff for Nick Short, and now Daniel Murad behind the wheel leading here right away. So good for that team and that driver. But Scott Hargrove, when you talk about good stuff for teams with that Pfaff Automotive, no major engine change or gearbox changes in that car. He was still able to start from his qualifying position and stay away. And it kind of, the problems that you have qualifying 7th, you see an incident like we have down here in turn number 1, Jeremy, it sort of makes it more of a blessing than a heartache that you had during qualifying.
Yeah, that's true, because you're able to you just be, there's no point in being over aggressive at the start when you're in that sort of a position. Just wait and pick up the pieces that come your way, and that's exactly certainly what Daniel Murad did, and various other contenders as well. Martin Fuentes in particular. I mean, he hung back a little bit at the start, was able to pick his way through, and now he's running in the 5th position in this race and leading the AM class over Rodrigo Baptista. Yuki Hirata is right with him as well. It's going to be quite a battle when we get back to green between those three, I think. Yuki Hirata, youngster from Japan. He was a downhill ski racer with some success. He was a multi-time Asian champion in downhill, but unfortunately one too many knee injuries a few years ago. That ended his skiing career, so he's decided he needed to find a new passion. Well, he went to the Dream Racing Motorsport Academy, if you like, at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, drove the Lamborghinis there for the first time, and he figured right away, hey, this is my new passion, this is it, motor racing for me. And he raced last year for the very first time, did a really good job, drove a lot of races last season in a bunch of different series. He's picked up a lot of experience along the way, and he started out this season pretty strong. It wasn't particularly strong in qualifying yesterday, but still learning this GT3 car, and he's expected to be a contender all the way through this year.
Looking at the AM category, when you talk about Yuki, that Dream Racing, that's based out in Las Vegas Motor Speedway there. Come out and pick an exotic car. A little over, I think, 130 cars now you have a chance to choose from and drive out at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, go through the whole school. And Yuki happened to take a trip to Las Vegas, and I believe his mother bought him that package to go out there and drive an exotic car on the track, and liked it so much and said, can I race with this? And they started coaching, brought him up, went to the GT Cup category last year, won the championship there. Now here into GTA category. Lights off, we're on our pace car as we're ready to go back to green, as Daniel Murad in that DeVilbiss Mercedes will lead the field here back to green with about 31 minutes still to go. So a lot of racing still to go here around the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida.
And hopefully this time we can keep it clean. Daniel Murad there weaving around, trying to build some heat into those Pirelli P0 tires. The green flag is waving. We are racing again here on the streets of St. Pete. Daniel Murad again weaving that car around the straight a little bit. He's got a healthy lead again under the turn 1. Scott Hargrove in 2nd place, Tony Villander in 3rd. At the back of the field, Daniel Kalwitz already making a move on Yuki Hirata for position.
Rodrigo Baptista in the Bentley tried to go on the inside, little over-under on Martin Fuentes on the exit of turn number 1. Got that Bentley a little loose. He recovers, but everybody's staying in line. There is Martin Fuentes, Rodrigo, and you see Daniel Kalwitz trying to work his way back through the field. He got around Yuki Hirata, flashing the lights on that Callaway Corvette, trying to work his way around Baptista and Fuentes.
A lot of experience in Corvettes, in Callaway Corvettes in particular, for Daniel Kalwitz, so he knows these cars inside out. What he's not quite so familiar with is street circuits. Has raced on street circuits in the past, but certainly not as many races as he will encounter this year in the Pirelli World Challenge. So he's got to learn to be a little bit patient here this afternoon into turn 10. Not able to make a move there on Baptista. Still tucks back into line, flashing those lights furiously and still looking for a way past. In the meantime, out of turn 14 comes Daniel Murad in that orange DeVilbiss Mercedes with a goodly lead. He's extended that margin just a little bit over Scott Hargrove on this lap. Tony Villander settling into 3rd place. Michael Christensen in 4th. And a gap back to Martin Fuentes. And now Baptista under pressure from Dark Kalwitz, who looks to the inside under braking, side by side through turn 1. That's going to be dodgy.
It sure is, and Rodrigo Baptista does not want to give that position up, does not want that Callaway to come in between himself and the leader, Martin Fuentes, in our AM category. It is 2 different classes here in the GT, and the way to distinguish between the two is you see on that Bentley there, the gray windshield banner. The black banner on that Callaway Corvette signifies the Pro category versus the AM in front. And that Bentley does not look happy. You can see it twitching back and forth over the bumps here on St. Petersburg. They go through a parking lot, back on city streets, then they come out onto a runway. A lot of different asphalts and degrees off-camber corners here at St. Petersburg.
There are indeed. It's certainly a challenging racetrack, and Daniel whoops, he gets he gets gifted that position because Baptista probably looking in his mirrors a little bit too much there. Left his brake in a little bit too late going to turn 10, goes straight on. Performs a nice little spin turn to Rodrigo, the Brazilian. Good job. Although, he's finally got it going again. So he's going to resume at the back of the field.
Yeah, I saw the headlights turn off, so it was trying to get that car restarted. Scott Hargrove closing a little bit down there in the braking zone, and Michael Christensen closing in a little bit on the back of Vilander in the Ferrari. Still 20, like I said, we got the green with 31 minutes to go, and now 28 minutes to go, so a lot of racing still to go here.
Yeah, there certainly is, and fastest lap of the race that time around was Michael Christensen in the fourth placed Porsche, the Allegra Motorsports entry, car number 24, turned a 1 minute 13.6, which compares to the pole time set this morning, 1 minute 10.9 for Tony Vilander. That, of course, on very little fuel and fresh tyres. So these cars are still relatively heavy with fuel at this stage in the race. And Daniel Morad is still leads, though, but only a couple of car lengths behind him now is Scott Hargrove. Hargrove, plenty of success here on the streets of St. Petersburg in the past. A winner in USF 2000, on his way to the championship in 2013. Also a podium finisher in Pro Mazda, a podium finisher a couple of years ago in Indy Lights here as well on the streets. So he knows how to win here, does Scott Hargrove. And now he's shadowing that Mercedes, and he's going to look for a way past. Closes right up under braking there. In second place does Hargrove. As we see, Daniel Karwitz making another move for position. And he's passing Martin Fuentes into turn 1. So Karwitz now up into 5th position. That's the good news. The bad news is he's got about 4.5 seconds to make up over Michael Christensen.
Got word down on pit lane that Parker Chase said his car, when he put it in reverse and tried to back up, it was stuck in reverse and wouldn't come back out. And like we said, when you're in a gear and you just tap the wall and it jerks the transmission, sometimes the software will just lock it into that gear as a safety mechanism. They have the car back in pits. They're trying to get all that reset so he can get back underway, still sitting on pit lane.
Yeah, shame for the youngster there, certainly. This battle for the lead is intensifying, isn't it? Daniel Morad is coming under increasing pressure from Scott Hargrove, and Tony Vilander, he's kind of biding his time there in 3rd place, but he knows, he's got plenty of experience. He might not have much experience in the Pirelli World Challenge, but he's got plenty of experience of racing and plenty of experience in these Ferraris as well, so he knows exactly what it takes to win.
Porsche's going to be better in their braking. Hargrove down to the inside, all over the brakes. Morad trying to close the door on them. They're side by side through the exit of turn number 1. Morad's going to have to line here through turn number 2, and then out through turn number 3 here. Hargrove pressuring the DeVilbiss Mercedes of Morad.
The two Canadians are going hammer and tongs here. They've had a bit of a history between these two. They've been battling for the GT3 Cup Porsche Championship in Canada several times over the last few years. They've each won championships up there, but they've had various incidents as well along the way. I hope there's no incidents though this afternoon, because they're pretty good buddies, I think. They get along fairly well moderately well together. They're both really nice guys, anyhow, let's put it that way. And I'm sure they won't want to come together here, but if they battle too much amongst themselves, and that's going to give Tony Vilander an opportunity to get there and maybe look for the lead as well. And Michael Christensen, well, he's right with them as well, isn't he, in 4th position?
Yeah, you saw how quick that was. Once those two cars got side by side, Vilander right on the back bumper, shower of sparks coming up underneath that Mercedes as he hits the bumps through the chicane into turn number 14 and back on the straightaway here. It was 1.4 seconds to Vilander from the lead as they cross the line. It's going to be a lot closer than that as Vilander closes now within 1.2, so starting to close that gap a little bit. Hargrove, better part of Valor this time, decides to tuck back in behind the Mercedes, maybe try to pick the weaknesses on where he might be able to get around that Mercedes later on.
And Karlowitz, 2 really quick laps there. 1 minute 12.650, new fastest lap of the race last time around, last 2 laps actually for Daniel Karlowitz in car number 26. He's currently about almost 4 seconds behind Christensen in the 5th position, Karlowitz, but clearly at this stage in the game has the fastest car on the track. Boy, that Porsche's got good straight line speed, hasn't it? Able to draw up onto the tail of the Mercedes heading down the long runway here toward turn 1. And Morad really having to work hard on the brakes to keep the Porsche behind him.
He does. You can see Hargrove looking to the inside, kind of flashing the lights a little bit, trying to do anything he can to get Daniel off of his game. Daniel trying not to make it a mirror race here, but Tony Vilander still closing in. Christensen dropped back a little bit here, and we'll see if he can get a good run here out of 14. Can Hargrove get the draft and try to make a move down in turn 1? He's got to be pretty well clear of the Mercedes down here in turn number 1. I don't think he's got enough to make the move right now. But Daniel Morad still leading the field. Hargrove going down to the inside again. A little side-by-side touch there. Morad's going to have the advantage here, though, down to the inside. Hargrove has to get out of it. Now Vilander onto the backside of Hargrove. Vilander's going to have the momentum coming down here into turn number 4. He protects down to the inside. Vilander pressuring Hargrove now. Battle for first for the top 3.
So you don't need 30-odd cars to have a great motor race, do you? We've got a fabulous battle for the lead here. Good respect there between the two Canadians. Clearly there was a recipe for disaster. They headed side-by-side into turn 2. That corner's just about flat out in these cars, but you've got to be really on the edge there, through there. So going in there side-by-side, there's more chance of crashing than making the pass probably, and Scott Hargrove realised that, backed out just a little bit, and Daniel Morad able to trust his rival there and keep his lead, but not by very much. This is a tremendous battle between these two drivers. Both of them came up through the open wheel ranks and now carving their careers in sports cars.
God, get to see a $500,000 GT3 sports car banging it off the curbs, bouncing it around, sparks flying as they come through the chicane. This is how racing should be. Pirelli World Challenge action here on the streets of St. Petersburg. Hargrove back to the inside. Daniel Morad. Oh, they make contact again. Hargrove to the outside. Vilander's going to get around him now. He's going to have to protect that third place. I'm not sure if there's a problem there. Big sparks out of the back of the Mercedes.
Yeah, there was maybe a little bit of contact. There was a late lunge to the inside by Hargrove there. That car got tremendous straight line speed, but he's got Tony Vilander now all over the back end of the Porsche. Still, both of them now past the Mercedes. Michael Christensen right there in 4th place, and look who's right behind them as well. Yes, that's Daniel Karlowitz, who continues to turn the fastest laps of the race. He's lapping in the 12s, 112.189 a couple of laps ago. That is the fastest lap of the race so far.
Yeah, 112.5 the previous lap. He's lapping, well, obviously with the, as the great Calvin Fish would say, a little argy-bargy there with the front leaders. That's allowing him to put those laps down and just put his head down and catch to the back of this field now. 5-car battle for the overall GT lead here. You got to go back to Martin Fuentes still leading in our AM category, and Yuki Harada in 2nd and Rodrigo Baptista in 3rd, but it's the top 5 battle for the overall lead here in GT.
And that Porsche, once again, really good straight line speed. The Porsche leads the Ferrari, leads the Mercedes, leads the Porsche, leads the Callaway Corvette. He's looking to the inside there, but no, not quite close enough to make a move down into turn 1. Here's Karlowitz, has to tuck in behind in the 5th position. Scott Hargrove, he's got his nose in front now. He's got a good fast car. Clearly that car is really quick on the straights here. Tony Vilander able to make no ground on him at all on the front straight, unlike the previous few laps where we could see Hargrove certainly had the edge, particularly at the end of the straight, and then under braking for turn 1, that Porsche a little bit more fleet than the Mercedes-Benz at that point on the track, and that's what enabled Hargrove to finally make that dive for the inside and grasp the lead. He had to work hard for it, though.
Sure does. Scott Hargrove trying to do what he can to stay in front of that R. Ferry Motorsports Ferrari 488. And Remo Ferri, if you're watching there, I know you're in Italy taking care of the team owner of R. Ferry Motorsports, watching Tony Vilander. Welcome back here to Pirelli World Challenge. Started the season last year, just had a couple of miserable races here at the beginning of the season, and took the rest of the year off to focus on this year. And Tony Vilander, fastest in all practices and qualifying, and sitting in 2nd right now. And here comes Karlowitz down to the inside. You see Christensen protect. Corvette goes back to the outside. Christensen back to the inside now. Can Karlowitz try to protect? A little bump there. Let him know he's there, but he's going to make that move here, I think, sooner rather than later.
These two have done quite a bit of racing together in Europe over the years. And Karlowitz, he was certainly looking to make that move to the inside, but Christensen said, oh, no, you don't. I'm going to defend that inside line down to turn 1. And then he's able to maintain that position. But what a battle this is between the Porsche and the Callaway Corvette.
Watching Christensen there in that in-sync Allegra Motorsports team based here in Florida with that car. Winners of the 24 Hours of Daytona last season. Ironically enough, Daniel Murad, Michael Christensen, teammates in that car winning that race, and here they run third and fourth on the track.
That's right. Scott Hargrove, he's just turned his best lap of the race so far. 1 minute 12.626 for a race leader in the Pfaff Motorsports, that Castrol liveried Porsche. Great looking car, isn't it? And in second place, so Tony Villander, he's been the pace setter all the way through this weekend so far. He was quickest in both practice sessions yesterday, fastest in qualifying this morning. But right now, it is Scott Hargrove who's stretching the legs of that Porsche and making a bit of a gap out front. In the meantime, there goes Garwitz to the inside. There's a bump between them in the middle of the apex of turn one. The Corvette is through.
Yeah, you see the Callaway Corvette and the Porsche side-by-side contact. You see these exotic sports race cars door to door here in the streets of St. Pete. Kowitz up into that fourth place now. Christensen back to fifth. See if he can recover. Just not quite up to the speed with the leaders is Christensen so far on the streets here. That team, though, we know they can make it happen. Kowitz now recovering, starting back in the 8th position on that restart. Up to 4th now. We'll see if he can run down Daniel Murad a little bit as a top 3, starting to get about a 10-car width gap between the 3 of them.
You've got to love the sound of that rumbling Chevrolet V8, haven't you? And Daniel Kowitz has got the hammer down. He's made that pass for position, and now he's going to chase after that leading trio. I'm sure it won't be long before he's right with them as well. But in the lead of the race, it is still Scott Hargrove, who's must have made a mistake on that lap, because all of a sudden, Tony Villander is an awful lot closer as they come past the line. Hargrove leads now by about half a second. He pulled in about 0.8 of a second on that last lap. I don't know where, but I think Hargrove must have made a mistake somewhere. And Tony Villander now is right with the race leader, first and second, threading the needle through turn 2 and 3 onto that bumpy straightaway towards turn 4. Scott Hargrove able to maintain his racing line, not having to defend a position there, but he's certainly under increasing pressure from Tony Villander.
Looking back at our AM category, Rodrigo Baptista in that Bentley has closed the gap now down after that earlier mistake in that runoff area in his K-Pax Bentley, the number 8 blue Bentley. 6 seconds now behind Yuki Hirata for that second place. It still is Martin Fuentes, has about a 7-second lead over second place in that Lamborghini, but Rodrigo Baptista lapping about a half a second quicker than the 2 leaders in our AM category, trying to recover after that earlier mistake and working his way up. But here is Villander. You can see the gap now. That was 0.6 seconds before, 0.7 now. So Scott Hargrove extends it out by a 1/10 of a second, and it's that close, 1/10 to a half. You can't even say it fast enough as it happens.
Yeah, that's right. And Hargrove responded there. He set his fastest lap of the race, 1:12.489 on that last lap. That matched pretty much the lap that was set the previous time around by Tony Villander. But still, it appears to be nothing to choose between this Porsche and the Ferrari. Hey, how often we said that in sports car racing, Porsche versus Ferrari. A tremendous battle here. And only, a couple of seconds or so behind them now is Daniel Morad in 3rd place. And Daniel Kowitz trying to reduce that deficit as well. But another good lap there for Morad. His best lap of the race, a 1 minute 12.8, fending off that challenge from Kowitz and the Callaway Corvette.
Well, you look at Daniel Morad there, that number 2, DeVilbiss CRP Racing, Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 car, front engine V8, twin turbocharged, just a beautiful car. And then this flat 6 Porsche, the new V8 twin turboed Ferrari. And it's kind of weird to hear. You don't hear the Ferrari anymore. You used to be able to hear that nice whine out of the V8s of these Ferraris. They put the turbos on now, and it's virtually silent coming down the straightaway.
It is, and Kowitz, having got past Michael Christensen now, is pulling away pretty rapidly. Pulled away about half a second on Christensen that last lap, and he reduced the deficit to Morad by about the same amount. So that Callaway Corvette really is very, very fast. And he's just 3 or 4 car lengths behind him as they head through that turn 4-5 complex.
And you saw Daniel Morad and then the Callaway of Kowitz right behind him,
on that straightaway, kind of go to the right and then back to the left again. There's a really bad bump right there in a transition. You can drive over it, but it really unsettles the car, and no reason to do it. He's not really protecting to the inside going into turn 4. It's just that really bad bump on the exit of 3 on the straightaway where cars will shy away from that a little bit. And you'll see a lot of the GT and the GT4 machine coming up next that'll be doing that each time.
Already lapping at record pace here, record race pace. The previous race lap record was set a couple of years ago by Nick Katzberg in a Lamborghini Gallardo, and won 13.1. Well, all but one of the cars have lapped faster than that during this race. The lead now for Scott Hargrove extended a little bit on that lap over Tony Villander. A gap of about 2.5 seconds back to Morad in third place, and Daniel Karlowitz less than half a second behind that Mercedes in fourth with that Callaway Corvette.
Wow, you can see the sparks shooting off the sides of Daniel Morad's Mercedes every bump that he hits. With the ride height on that Mercedes, they got some steel planks on the bottom edges of the car to protect the bodywork, and that's the sparks you see. No harm, no foul there. I think they might want to try to just maybe adjust the ride height a little bit up, but these are set ride heights, what you're allowed to run, so it's kind of hard to adjust what you can. You can always raise the car above the minimums, but you want to try to run as close to the minimum as you can. Got word from pit lane, nothing wrong with the car, just hitting those stops in the metal as he goes over the bumps.
That's certainly good news, and the pace at the front here is really tight, really fast. Daniel Karlowitz has set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 12.189, a new lap record, but the last 2 laps by Scott Hargrove have both been a 1 minute 12.2. He comes across the line here again on this next lap. It's faster again, it's a new lap record for our race leader Scott Hargrove, a 1 minute 12.059. He extends his lead over Tony Villander. It's now pretty close to 2 seconds. In the meantime, the battle for third rages on. Daniel Morad holding on just ahead of Daniel Karlowitz.
And still, he protected that inside groove a little bit down the straightaway, but Karlowitz was perfectly great to stay right behind him as our AM battle heats up coming down the straightaway here. You see Yuki Hirata in his Lamborghini. Rodrigo Baptista has closed that 6-second gap right behind the Lamborghini, but we're still watching this third place battle overall with Daniel Morad and Daniel Karlowitz. The battle of the Daniels. Who's it going to be here? Is that Callaway Corvette looking down to the inside, kind of breathing the nose a little bit. You got to think he has the power on the straightaway, Jeremy. If he can stay with that, these cars are kind of aero-dependent. You get the nose and the air off that splitter, it kind of helps the handling. But if he can stay right there, he's going to get that draft down the straightaway and make that move into turn 1.
Yeah, that's what Daniel Morad has got to really concentrate on again. A good exit to turn 13 and 14 onto the straight. He did that lap, and they seem to be pretty closely matched as they head across start-finish line. But now I think the Corvette is going to come into its own. They head into the braking area, and Morad kind of feints toward the halfway across the racetrack to dissuade Karlowitz from making a move, but they're now almost side by side into turn 2. Karlowitz very sensibly there, backed off. Discretion, very much the better part of valor.
Yeah, and Daniel Morad got in there a little too late. You saw him go a little bit wide. He came back to shut the door, kind of hurt that momentum of the Corvette a little bit. I think Daniel Karlowitz saw that come and got out of it to recover. Just 2 top-notch pro drivers here racing around for that third place in the GT category.
Yeah, he's made his mistakes early in the race as Karlowitz. He wants to make sure he doesn't make another one. He wants to bring that car home. If he can get a podium, great. There's still 10 minutes remaining in this race, so plenty of time yet to be another 8 or 9 laps in this race. So he's going to have some opportunities to make that pass, but he's got to work hard for it, that's for sure.
Got word from Reeves Callaway that the only piece that Corvette shares from the production Corvette is the rear view mirror covers on the outside of the car. So it is a real purpose-built GT3 car from Callaway production Corvette race car GT3. So it's pretty neat to see that they build their own cars in-house. They're built over in Germany, I believe, and then shipped over here. And he's looking to move that stateside to get these cars built here in America. There's that bump we talk about, drivers driving around it. Daniel Morad's perfectly content just to stay there to the inside, to not let Karlowitz give any ideas of going to the inside there in turn number 4.
Tony Villander in second place in that Ferrari. Just had his best lap of the race last time around, a 1 minute 12.402. But even that was not quite as quick as Hargrove, who extended his lead by another tenth of a second. So 1.9 seconds now between first and second. Tony Villander has got his work cut out if he's going to catch up to Hargrove and maybe wrest away the victory.
But we talk about the history that Scott Hargrove has had here at St. Petersburg, Florida, and that goes back to you, Jeremy Shaw, of course, with the open wheel stuff here. Sweeping, I believe, a couple rounds in 2013. He was on the podium here a couple years ago in Indy Lights. I mean, he knows his way around here.
Yeah, he does. He knows how to win here. That's important because it's a tricky track. Particularly, it's pretty cool this evening. And, there's not an awful lot of, track conditions are certainly good right now. The engines are breathing well. It's fairly cool. And there's not too much of a breeze. So, there's no danger of overheating the tyres, that's for sure. And Hargrove was able to push that car really, really hard and now turning some pretty consistent laps again at the front of the field and extending his lap. His lead over Villander is now out to over 2 seconds for the first time in this race.
Daniel Murad still able to hold off Kylewicz. It's 1:12.6 for Daniel Kylewicz, but the previous lap 1:12.2 for Murad. But like you said, the 0.4 of a second, you can just see that's the gap right there. He's got a little tiny bit of breathing room now, and I'm not sure if maybe Daniel Kylewicz could be saving something for the end here. Just a little less than 8 minutes to go in this race, or did he use up that car a little bit trying to work his way back through the field to get to where he needed to be?
Yeah, good point. Certainly Murad, though, is really stepping up to the plate here. That was his best lap on the last lap, at 1 minute 12.2. He comes across the line now. It's 1 minute 12.6. A couple of tenths quicker there, Kylewicz, on that lap, but not able to make an appreciable gain towards making that third position his own. It's currently in the hands of Daniel Murad, but Daniel Kylewicz hasn't given up yet. So he almost has the probably 2/3 of the length of that straight from turns 3 to 4 now between the 4th and 5th place cars. Michael Christensen, having made a great run in qualifying to start on the front row, was challenging for the lead in the early stages, but now he seems to be slipping back in that 5th position. Martin Fuentes pretty much out on his own in the lead of the AM category in 6th position in that Hublot Ferrari, car number 07. Rodrigo Baptista, though, he's doing his best to close in. He was about half a second faster on that last lap than Fuentes, but Baptista in 7th in the Bentley. He's got a deficit of about 11 seconds to make up, and with only 6.5 minutes remaining in this race, that's going to be a pretty tall order. And a good lap there from Hargrove, 1 minute 12.3, another couple of tenths of a second he pulls out over the veteran Tony Villander.
Boy, and Daniel Murad has done a great job of not placing that Mercedes in harm's way there through turn number 1. He's given drivers the room each and every time somebody's looked to the inside. That time he knew that he didn't have a good run, was able to close the door. But good heads-up driving, keeping it clean is Murad in that De Vilbiers Mercedes, doing a superb job holding off Daniel Kylewicz here in that Callaway Corvette as they come down through turn number 5 and 6 onto the back section of the course here through the soccer stadium area.
Yeah, and in terms of ultimate pace, there's very little to choose between those top 4 cars. Fastest lap of the race set by our race leader, Scott Hargrove, 1 minute 12.0. And 1 minute 12.1 for Kylewicz, 1:12.2 for Murad. The best of Tony Villander, the pole sitter, could manage a 1:12.4. A little bit surprising, having had the legs of everybody in each of the sessions prior to the race.
Scott Hargrove doing a good job here as Murad go down to the inside. And that's the biggest gap that Daniel's had coming down the straightaway now. Man, I got to think that something's going on with that Corvette to where it might have just been used up just a little bit here, overworked that car, or himself trying to catch up to Murad in the field here and made a shot for that 3rd and final podium spot. But to get out of a street circuit really unscathed, I think, for him. I don't think he's got any damage or any contact, but then to get up there and be in 4th place, not a bad result. But Scott Hargrove, that Castro Pfaff Automotive Porsche 911 GT3R, kind of taking the reins here over from the Wright Motorsports team is the Porsche contingent with Allegro Motorsports now as well here in Pirelli World Challenge. So leading that, and a great shot with that Hublot Ferrari. Martin Fuentes, your 2016 Pirelli World Challenge GTA champion, returning here in that 488 GT3, leading over Rodrigo Baptista and Yuki Hirata in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, and Martin Fuentes, he's already gained a new lap record for GTA. That stood to Alec Udell last year. This race was classified as an AM. The next race he wasn't. He became a pro shortly thereafter. But the old GTA race lap record, 114.770. Martin Fuentes' best lap in this race is a 112.832, fractionally quicker than Rodrigo Baptista in the Bentley. Those are really good laps.
Yeah, tattooing that lap record over 2 seconds. Correct?
Absolutely. I mean, they are quicker than the outright GT lap record coming into this weekend.
And that tells you a lot about the technology, this Pirelli P0 tire Racelic and what they use to develop this tire worldwide. All the global GT cars that are on Pirelli rubber all run this same Pirelli P0 tire. So the Pirelli engineers able to look at all the data and all the engineering into these cars and these tires and develop this global tire now. And that really shows how fast these cars are becoming, where each and every racetrack we go to, we're setting lap records after lap records, qualifying records, race records. It's really a great time to be a GT fan of sports cars here in Pirelli World Challenge.
Certainly is. Less than 3 minutes to go now in this race for Scott Hargrove as he comes across the line one more time. A 1 minute 12.6 that time for our race leader. That time matched by Tony Villander in second place. A little bit of a gap back to the third and fourth place position. Daniel Karbit seems now to be just putting the pressure again on Daniel Morad. He really does want that third place, but he also wants to make sure he doesn't do anything silly in trying to gain that position.
Well, that lap by, he was 0.3 of a second quicker than Morad. We'll see if he can maintain that pace. He was only about 0.2 of a second slower than his overall best lap. So perhaps he wasn't losing anything. He was just saving here till the end, because it looks like by the time they cross the line, we should have about 2 more laps to go here in this race. Don't think we'll get the white flag this time. It is timed races, so time does have to either expire before they cross the line again to get that white flag. If there's greater time than what the lap is, it'll be another lap, and then they'll get the white flag.
Indeed so. I think that you're right. They will complete this lap, and it'll be the white flag next time around for our race leader, Scott Hargrove. What a performance this has been by the Canadian. Absolutely picture perfect for the 23-year-old. Lives now in Tsawwassen, British Columbia, in the Vancouver area. It's been an absolutely superb drive. He took advantage of the opportunity that was given to him. Having had that incident this morning, took the lead, and now is pulling away from Tony Villander in second place.
Yeah, not a better way to reward that Pfaff Automotive crew than all the hard work they did. And I got a chance to go into that truck and see the work going on the car, and I kind of walked in. I looked at the car, saw maybe a dozen crew members in varying jobs doing different things. Scott Hargrove was vacuuming the inside of the car out. I mean, it was they were that intense to get it done. I said, I don't think now's a good time to go ask how they're doing. So I kind of stepped back, and that was how it was right to the last minute to get that car ready.
Yeah, I'm sure Scott, I didn't get a chance to see Scott after the qualifying incident this morning, but he would have been crushed by that. He would have been very disappointed in himself for making that mistake, causing all that damage to the car. And so I have no doubt you're right. He would have been in there in the trenches trying to making sure that car, doing whatever he could to help the mechanics prepare that car for the race.
Well, 1 lap to go for Scott Hargrove in that Castrol Pfaff Porsche 911 GT3R. Tony Villander gets his final lap sitting in second. Daniel Morad in third, and Daniel Kajowicz fall back a little bit now into fourth as Michael Christensen crossed the line in fifth. I'm going to head down to pit lane. We'll talk to our winners. Close it out for us there, Jeremy Shaw. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jeff Lepper. We'll speak to you in a few minutes from Victory Circle. In the meantime, Scott Hargrove has about another mile and a bit to go as he's through turns 4, turn 5. Going to be very, very careful through here. He knows he's got a pretty handy advantage now. It's extended to over 3.5 seconds only over Tony Villander, who's clearly settled for second place this day. So Scott Hargrove is just going to bring it home. The top 4 cars pretty much evenly spaced at the moment, with Daniel Morad having pulled away from Daniel Kajowicz on that last lap. last couple of laps, and so he's not really under pressure at all for third place. But this afternoon, it's been all about Scott Hargrove, 23-year-old, a former champion in the USF 2000 Championship, and it's been an absolutely superb performance. He put a wheel wrong this morning perhaps, but no hint of that this afternoon. And the checker flags are waving. Scott Hargrove comes across the line to take the victory in the opening round of this year's Pirelli World Challenge. A tremendous debut victory both for him and for Pfaff Motorsports. Tony Villander in second place, Daniel Maurer, the second of the Canadians, in third place. And in fourth is Daniel Kalwitz in a Callaway Corvette from Germany. And from Denmark, Michael Christensen takes the checkered flag in the fifth position for Allegra Motorsports. Waiting now for our AM winner to make his appearance. Martin Fuentes took full advantage of that incident on the first lap in that patriotically covered Mexican liveried flag colours on this car, and Martin Fuentes takes the checkered flag. He will come home with the victory, the champion 2 years ago in GTA, and he's got his 2018 season off to a perfect start with another victory here in GTA. Rodrigo Baptista brings across the Bentley Continental in second place, and in third will be Yuki Hirata from Japan in the Dream Motorsport Racing Lamborghini Huracan GT3. Our race leaders on the cool down lap now. Tony Villander, he gave Hargrove all he could manage and all he could handle in the middle portion of the race, but Scott Hargrove kept his cool. Looked like he might have made a mistake on one lap. All of a sudden the gap that had been gradually extending was whittled down again to just a few car lengths, but Hargrove kept his composure, put his head down and just turned a series of really fast laps, and that's what it enabled him to come home with an absolutely superb victory here this afternoon. And what a tremendous way to start the season, and what a great way to repay all the hard work that Pfaff Motorsports team has done over the 6 hours since qualifying earlier on this morning. He was fast yesterday, Hargrove. He was second in each of the practice sessions, making his presence felt and taking advantage of all the track time he's had here in St. Petersburg in the past. And he'll bring that car onto the pit lane now and head towards Victory Circle. And Jeff Lepper will be down there to accept him and hand out all the victory laurels. A tremendous drive. It really was impressive. To come under the sort of pressure he was from the veteran that is Tony Villander says a lot for Scott Hargrove. He might only be, he's still young, isn't he, Scott Hargrove? He's just 23 years of age, but he drove like a veteran today. Let's run down the order then. The top 10. Scott Hargrove comes home with a victory. In second place, Tony Villander. Daniel Morad in third place for Mercedes. The Callaway Corvette of Daniel Kalwitz in fourth, ahead of Michael Christensen in the Porsche. Then the Ferrari of Martin Fuentes, the GTA winner, ahead of Rodrigo Baptista in the Bentley. Yuki Hirata in the Lamborghini rounds out the field of finishers. Not taking the checkered flag. Spencer Pompelli in the Aston Martin. Alvaro Parent in the second of the K-Pax Flying Lizard Bentleys. And also Parker Chase in the True Speed Autosport Audi, unable to complete even the first lap of this race. But it's they'll have another opportunity tomorrow. Hopefully they can get all those cars fixed and be out on the grid for tomorrow's race. That'll be one to watch tomorrow afternoon. There's going to be plenty more action. I think that was a tremendous race. It shows that you don't need to have huge fields to have exciting races. We only started with 11. We were down to 8 at the end of the first lap. But this whole field put on an absolutely tremendous race in the opening round of the Pirelli World Challenge. These cars will be out in action again after the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg tomorrow afternoon for round 2 of the championship. The GT cars will be out at 3:15 tomorrow afternoon. And certainly Scott Hargrove will be looking to complete his perfect weekend if he possibly can. But Tony Villander, he will look to make amends. Having started from the pole position today, he had to make do with second place. And the grid for tomorrow's race will be set, as we said earlier on, by the fastest lap set during today's race. That honour also falling to Scott Hargrove. So it will be he in at number 96 Pfaff Motorsports Porsche that will start on the pole position tomorrow afternoon. I think on the front row with him will be Daniel Kalwitz in the Callaway Corvette, car number 26, Good old American V8 muscle power in that Callaway Corvette. That will start on the front row of the grid. Row 2, I believe, will be Daniel Morad, who actually turned a faster lap than Tony Villander, today's pole sitter. So a bit of a disappointing day for Tony Villander. Massive amount of experience in Porsches, driven them all over the world for a large number of years. But having earned the pole position this morning, he'll be a little bit disappointed with second place, and particularly knowing he will have to start 4th tomorrow afternoon. The GTS race is due to take the flag in about 15 minutes or so. We'll have to get the GT cars out of the way first of all. And before that, we'll try and get down to Victory Lane with Jeff Lepper. So we'll join Jeff in just a few moments.
He's James Hinchcliffe, the mayor. Years of facing ultra G-force spins has altered his brain. Now he governs the laws of gravity with zero-G telepathy. For him, impossible is just possible with 2 extra letters.
You don't have to be an IndyCar driver to drive like one. Get ultra-high track-proven performance with the Firestone Firehawk Indy 500. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone. Take on whatever the day throws your way. The Firestone Buy and Try 30-day guarantee. If you're not satisfied within the first 30 days, we'll refund or exchange. No questions asked. Whatever you drive a Firestone.
With some GT cars here, we'll go right away into our GTA category, and finishing in third place, your 2017 Pirelli World Challenge GT Cup champ. Put your hands together in the Dream Racing Lamborghini Huracan GT3, Yuki Hirata. Finishing in second place in the K-Pax Racing Bentley Continental GT3. Moving up from the GTS category this year into GTA, driver of the Bentley, once again, Rodrigo Baptista. And taking his win, your 2016 Pirelli World Challenge GTA champ, and his return full-time to Pirelli World Challenge here in 2018 in the Hublot Ferrari 488 GT3. One of the nicest guys in the paddock. Put your hands together here, Martin Fuentes. Hey, Martin, really quick, man. Tell us about that drive, staying out of the trouble there on the first corner, man. Crazy stuff, huh?
Yeah, St. Pete is one of the best races I've ever done, and definitely it's more exciting than any race that we've done in the whole season.
Well, there it goes. How about it, fans? Put your hands together here. Martin Fuentes, your race winner today. Rodrigo Baptista, second place, and Yuki Hirata, third today for your podium in our GTSA category. Want to give a huge thank you to VP Racing Fuels, of course, the official fuel of the Pirelli World Challenge. Also, our VP Fuel Hard Charger of the Race Award. And picking up the most positions all race long is your GTA race winner, Martin Fuentes, earning our VP Fuel Hard Charger of the Race Award. And we got to give a huge thank you to Optima Batteries, of course, our Best Start of the Race Award. Also to your GTSA race winner, GTA race winner, Martin Fuentes. Well, we'll go ahead and put those Pirelli hats back on, and then we'll bring in our champagne here, and a salute to our GTA race winners. How about it, fans? There's your GTA podium. Martin Fuentes, Rodrigo Baptista, and Yuki Hirata. Congratulations, gentlemen. We'll get all three of you guys up there on that top step. One last photo. Awesome. We'll go on to our overall GT podium. And what a battle that was all race long, leading early but able to salvage a third place finish. Driver in the DeVilbiss CRP Racing Hawk Performance Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. Put your hands together, Daniel Murad. Finishing in second place in the R Ferry Motorsports Ferrari of Alberta, Ontario, Toronto 488 GT3. Newcomer here in Pirelli World Challenge competition. Put your hands together, Tony Vilander. And taking the win in the Pfaff Automotive Castrol Porsche 911 GT3R. Swept the weekend here in 2013 and US 2000. IndyCar podium in 2016, but it was race win here today. How about it, Scott Hargrove? Hey, Scott, really quick before you step up there here, try to get a couple words with you, man. That the incident you had in the qualifying, what the team had to go through, what a way to reward him here today.
I couldn't ask for more than that. I mean, obviously in qualifying, you never want to wad up the car, especially on your debut. So I did that. I didn't get a representative lap time, so we had to start near the back. And then just due to some crazy racing up front, got a good start, and we were able to get up to second place by that yellow. And then from there, me and Daniel had a battle. I had to take it a few tries to get the lead, and then after that, no one else in front. So I couldn't thank the Pfaff guys enough. I mean, we got the car ready 5 minutes before False Grid closed, and it was flawless. So hats off to them.
Well, congratulations on your race win. Saw him vacuuming the interior of the car out. That's how close it had to be. But your race winner today, Scott Hargrove, Tony Vilander in second, Daniel Murad in third for your overall and GT podium. Here's a shot for the side. Hold those trophies up high, gentlemen. All right, let's go ahead and once again, VP Racing Fuel, our official fuel, the Pirelli World Challenge. All 40 cars here this weekend competing with VP Racing Fuel. I want to give a huge thank you, like I said, once again, Martin Fuentes, our VP Fuel Hard Charger of the Race Award, picking up the most positions all race long. I believe he picked up 6 positions, not only race overall, but also on the first lap, earning our Optima Battery Best Start of the Race Award. All right, gentlemen, put those Pirelli hats back on. We'll bring in our champagne here as we get a chance to salute our GT and overall podium for our champions here. All right, congratulations. Remember, a race tomorrow. How about it there, folks? Thank you so much for joining us here for our podium celebration for our GTS category. Don't forget, right after this, our GTS coming up next. 50-minute sprint race, 27 cars set to take the green flag, just a little over 5 minutes. Watch along at world-challenge.com. We'll see you back here for our GTS podium.
Thank you very much, Jeff Lepper, with the podium finishes from the first GT race of the season. We're just a few minutes away from the start of the GTS category race as well. There'll be 27 cars on the grid for this race. Should have been 28. One of them doesn't look like he's made it down to the grid. That would be Fred Roberts, the Canadian, another Canadian, actually. A lot of Canadians here this weekend. Had a great run in the GT ranks, but unfortunately for Fred, he won't be able to start the race this afternoon. They had a drive shaft failure this morning in one of the JCR Racing Maseratis. You saw that crew about an hour ago. They were thrashing away. They changed various bits and pieces. When the drive shaft broke, which was a brand new drive shaft, by the way, for qualifying, broke on the first lap out of the pits, which was rather unfortunate. It also ripped out some electrical parts as well on that car, so they were replacing those. They thought they were going to be able to get ready for the start, but unfortunately that car is not out on the grid now, so we're going to have 27 cars for this race. And a huge variety of cars. Once again, we've got 2 categories of drivers. We've got the GTS, which is basically FIA SRO specification GT4 cars. They race all over the world, these sorts of cars. They're represented by the Pirelli World Challenge here in North America. And there's a good variety of cars. So there's the pro drivers and the AM drivers as well. Those with a little bit less experience, but some of them well up towards the sharp end of the grid. We've got 2 AM contenders in the front 4 rows on the grid. Another one on row 5 as well. So it's going to be a tremendous battle in store for that field of cars in just a few minutes' time. Jeff Lepper is hustling along to try and get out onto the grid to give the command to start the engines. And then we'll be underway. Once again, there will be 2 pace laps before we take the green flag. And this is the opening round, of course, of the GTS season. 20 races will comprise this championship this season for the Pirelli World Challenge in GTS category, and a tremendous field of cars. 1 year ago here on the streets of St. Petersburg for the first round of GTS in 2017, there were just 13 cars, more than double that 1 year on. 27 cars lined up there to look absolutely superb as they are taking positions on the starting field, getting ready to fire up those engines. It'll be another 50-minute race for the GTS category. Round 1 of the 2018 Pirelli World Challenge for GTS. We're going to have a Porsche and an Audi on the front row, a Ford and a Chevrolet on the second row of the grid. We'll run down the full starting order shortly, and then an Audi and a Ginetta on row 3. So plenty of variety among the manufacturers once again in GTS, as was the case in GT.
World Challenge, the most infamous words of motorsports. Gentlemen, start your engines.
So the engines are fired. We're going to have 50 minutes of racing for GTS, and on the pole position from the Italian part of Switzerland will be Gabriella Piana. The pace car is pulling away at the front. That's one of the classic BMW M6s, I believe. And the field of cars will be right behind them very shortly. Let's start at the back of the grid with 27 starters for this race. In the 27th position, in car number 43 for Ian Lacey Racing, the Ginetta G55 of Steve Burns. Row 13 of the grid, car number 92, Chris Omacht in a number 92 BMW M4 GT4. That's one of the fast track racing classic BMW machines. And the teammate of Steve Burns, Frank Gannett, in car number 24 for Ian Lacey Racing, the second of the Ginetta G55s, will start on the 25th position. Row 12 of the grid, Gar Robinson from Texas in a Robinson Racing Mercedes-AMG GT4, that is car number 74. Alongside him, another Canadian, Ori Fidani, car number 13 for Pfaff Motorsports, that's a Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR. Row 11 on the grid, Justin Raphael, another classic BMW M4 GT4, that's car number 17 for Justin Raphael. And alongside him, James Pezic in the Ford Mustang GT4 for PF Racing, that's car number 40. Row 10 on the outside. Car number 23 is Adam Merzen in a K-Sit Racing by Flying Lizard Audi R8 LMS GT4. And then ahead of him on the grid, the Precision Driving BMW M4 GT4, Marko Radizic, originally from Serbia, now from Clearwater in car number 22. Row 9 of the grid on the outside, Ian James in the Team Paynos Racing, Paynos Avezzano GT4, that is car number 50. Ian James had a disappointing weekend here 1 year ago. He DNF'd, did not finish either of the races, but came back strong later in the season with what was then a brand new car. Won 6 races in 2017, and he'll be one of the championship favourites this year. Alongside him, car number 69, the Sin R1 for Racers Edge Motorsports, that's Harry Gottsacker. Row 8, Preston Calvert, number 51, Panos Avezzano GT4, and the McLaren 570S GT4 for KPR, Mark Clennin in car number 62. Row 7, car number 99, Jeff Courtney in the JCR Motorsports Maserati Gran Turismo MC GT4, and a Black Dog Racing Chevrolet Camaro GT4, car number 11, Tony Gaples. Row 6 on the outside, Nate Stacey in a Ford Mustang GT4 for Core Motorsports, that's car number 52. And car number 72, the second of the Flying Ranch 74 Robinson Racing Mercedes, is Shane Lewis. I thought we were going to have 2 pace laps. I was wrong. We have 1. And the green flag is out. They're racing down towards turn 1. The front row starter, Giorgio Piana, just about holds off ahead of James Sophronis and Lawson Aschenbach, making a move in the Black Dog Speed Shop Chevrolet.
Well, they worked their way through only 1 pace lap. I think they're trying to hurry up and get this race started and underway here. Traditionally 2 pace laps, but they did a race bulletin out with only 1. As they come down here to the inside, you can see Jason Bell looking to the inside as everybody's trying to get their way through. This thing is Nate Stacey there to the outside in his Mustang. You can really see some of the windshield wipers on. It is starting to rain a little bit. It takes kind of a big downpour on a normal race circuit for them really to need rains. We're on a street circuit here. Once the water hits that paint on all these lines, Jeremy, it gets a little slick.
It certainly does, and I tell you what, the temperature has dropped dramatically, hasn't it, in the last half an hour or so. It's pretty cool out here now, and conditions will be pretty slippery for these drivers, but a great start by our pole sitter there, Gabriella Piana in car number 21. That's the Mueller Motorsports Porsche Cayman. But all over the back end of that is the Chevy Camaro of Lawson Aschenbach, defending series champion from the east coast of Florida. He's got plenty of horsepower on the front straight, heading towards turn 1. It's still Piana who leads. Aschenbach in second place. In third is James Sophronis, who started in the second position in the GMG Audi car number 14. Behind him is Jade Buford at number 55, PF Racing Ford Mustang GT4.
Lawson Aschenbach pressuring right down to the inside. Gabriel Piana, he makes the move, goes to the inside, and I think Gabriel said, well, I'm just going to let him go ahead and have that one a little bit there. Right back on the back bumper. They touch as it comes down through the inside. That's experience there for Lawson Aschenbach. He knows how to win around this racetrack. He's done it before. He's a 5-time champion in the Pirelli World Challenge, and he was taking advantage there of those slippery conditions in the early stages of this race. Headlights ablaze there for Piana in second place, but it's Lawson Aschenbach that leads in the Chevrolet. The Porsche of Piana in second place, the Audi third, the Ford fourth, another Ford in the 5th position. That's Vinny Allegretta in car number 10, ahead of Nick Stavely, who is the GTSA leader in car number 12. That's the Ginetta G55. Second place in the AM category actually is George Kurtz in car number 04, the champion in GTSA from 2017. See the cars there. Oh, there's Harry Gottsacker, unfortunately, in that Sin R1 GT4 that's coming on to Dan Weldon Boulevard right on the shoreline where the marina is. He'll get that car in reverse. He just has to wait for a gap that's going to bar him all the way back to the back of the field.
Jason Bell from Tampa is inside the top 10 in the number 2 M1 GT Racing Audi R8 LMS GT4, another brand new car in this field. A great start there for Jason to get up into the 8th position, away from the start, ahead of Shane Lewis, the veteran from Jupiter, Florida, in a number 72 Mercedes GT4.
See if we can get a replay here and see what happens with Harry Gottsecker. Oh, right to the inside. Looks like that was Ian James. Got down to the inside of Harry Gottsecker, made some contact, got that car spun around. Getting word from race control, however, that he is still stopped there on the track. So we'll have to see if he can get that cleared off. Coming around through. Looks like the lead pack got through okay. It looks like Harry did get back underway. So good job for him as he comes back across the line. Try to stay on the lead lap.
A distant last position there for Harry Gottsacker, the youngster, just 18 years of age, from New Braunfels, Texas, driving that Racers Edge Motorsports Sin R1. It's a fast car, but unfortunately he's got an awful lot of work to do now. But in the lead of the race is Lawson Aschenbach in that number 1 Black Dog Speed Shop Chevrolet Camaro GT4. Gabriele Piano in second place, a battle for third now, as Jade Buford looks to the inside down in turn 1. Can he make it stick?
No.
There's contact, and around goes the Audi of James Safronis.
Yeah, James Safronis got to the inside there, closed the door. Jade was presented on the inside there. They made contact again. They're going to back up here, and that's going to be devastating. Now, once again, probably Smar back middle of the pack here as both cars get back underway.
And more battling further back, that's Drew Stavely making a move there on Vinny Allegretta. That would be for now probably for third place, actually, with those third and fourth place cars revolving together. Well, one of them spun in turn 1, and he ended up absolutely nose to nose there. So the car that was behind Jade Buford had been trying to make that pass. Couldn't go anywhere. I mean, he had to find reverse gear. That took him longer than he would have anticipated.
Well,
so he's got to restart at the back of the field now.
And I really can't think about what a worse situation to make contact with a guy, and now you're facing him nose to tail. You guys are both opposite. I'm sure they were telling each other who was number 1 the whole time there on the exit of turn number 1, but they got both those cars back underway. Oh, and looks like James Pesic there off in one of the runoffs. There's the number 40 PF Racing Mustang. 3 cars strong here with those Mustangs there. Is that PF Racing? It stands for Pesic Family Racing, and it goes Dad JR leading the way, Jay Buford, James, and then Vinny Allegretta. 3 cars with that is George Kurtz looking to the inside here, going to go on the inside of Vinny Allegretta.
Really nice move there from the Audi, brand new Audi this season for that CrowdStrike entry of George Kurtz. A really fine move. He won last year's GTSA category, had 9 wins on the season. From Paradise Valley, Arizona is George Kurtz, and doing a fine job. That was a really good move to the inside to take away that position. But the first 2, Lawson Aschenbach and Gabriele Piana, now a huge lead over Drew Stavely in third place for Ian Lacey Racing, and that little British-built Ginetta G55.
Got word from race control, drive-through penalty for Jade Buford in the number 55. Incident responsibility with James Safronis, obviously not alongside enough of the Global Motorsports Group Audi to have that incident. Sort of looked a little bit like maybe James might have shut the door a little bit. I kind of think he was right to the inside there, but they're claiming that Jade Buford was incident responsibility. Word is if they stop in the pit box to check for damage and has to look that's what he's doing. He's looking for damage in the pit box. That does not count as his drive-through penalty. He still has to go back out on track and then do a drive-through to serve that drive-through penalty.
So 5 laps completed in this 50-minute race. We've still got over 40 minutes remaining. And there's certainly more spots of rain falling here. The skies are looking darker, and it's getting a lot colder as well. The wind picking up. It's going to be really treacherous if the rain does come with any conviction here. At the moment, it's just sort of a light dusting, if you like, or a sprinkling of rain. Certainly nothing significant at this stage. All these cars out there on slick Pirelli tyres. So if it does rain, it'll be really, really treacherous. And even now, with these much cooler temperatures, the cars will be sliding around quite a bit.
There goes Jade Buford back out onto the track after the crew checks the car out. He'll lose a lap, and unfortunately he has to come back around again and then do a drive-through penalty back through the pit lane. So not ideal start for his championship contention here. As I see a lot of the crews down here getting those rain tires ready. They have the air hoses out. Now, assuming there's no lightning and it doesn't have a complete flood here, teams will have to make the decision on when they want to come down pit lane. The officials aren't going to throw a caution and let it come down. So we'll have to see what happens here with the rain. That's right. Unless there's a sudden downpour, then they would throw probably a caution flag, maybe even a red actually. But if it just it continues to intensify at the level it is right now, i.e. little by little, then you're right. It'll be up to the teams to make their decision. We could see some spots of rain now on the camera lens at turn 2 there. The weather appears to be coming in from the southwest, as is normal here on the west coast of Florida. And Michael Young was good enough to call up a radar screen just a few moments ago. Had a look at that. The most of it, the majority of the rain seems to be to our south, so we'll hope that we stay dry here. See Mike Hedlund there in that number 45 Flying Lizard Audi R8 LMS, and of course Mike Hedlund is donating $1 if he gets a win to all of his Twitter followers, which now stand at 3,032. So if you want to follow Mike Hedlund on Twitter, it's going to donate all the money to a local charity. If he gets on the podium in the M category, he'll donate 50 cents per Twitter follower. So it could be $3,000-4,000 before we're done here per race at each of the events. So really appreciate Mike Hedlund doing that. And go to Twitter, search for him right now. Yeah, there's a view of him coming off turn 14. Now he's currently running in the 9th position overall and 4th place in GTSA at the moment. But he's in the middle of a biggish pack of cars heading down towards turn 1. And even though the sprinkles of rain are intensifying just a little bit, the pace is increasing at the front of the field. A new fastest lap of the race, well actually 2 laps to go by Lawson Aschenbach, 1:19.458. But on this last lap, he was only 0.004 of a second slower. Remarkable consistency there for Lawson Aschenbach, 1:14.462 this time around. And that is a new race lap record here for GTS. That record stood previously to Dean Martin, who's one of the team principals at Core Motorsports, running the car for Nate Stacey this afternoon. 1:19.478 was the old lap record. 1:19.458, the new standard now by our race leader Lawson Aschenbach. But Aschenbach hasn't been able to pull out much. It still is Gabriele Piano is right there in second place. Maybe 10 or 12 car lengths between those two as they head towards turn 1. And there's one of the Ginettas, that's Frank Gannett. Frank Gannett, that's at the exit of turn number 3. That's high speed there. And you can see it's actually moved the wall a little bit over there. That's a huge impact. And that is going to be a cool Ginetta G5. That's going to have to go to a full course yellow, unfortunately. We'll see if we get a replay here. And there it was. Just got a little bit in, got the car loose. And smacked it into the wall there. Oh, you see just the hit there. Just got that car a little bit out, got in the marbles there with the rain as slick as it is. Yeah, knocked the wing off of it. Strange, I'm not sure whether there was any contact with the left-hand side of the wall as he turned into turn 3, or it looked like he was a little bit late, I think. Well, it also looked like the rear end of the car was steering itself at that stage. So whether there was a failure before or afterwards, not 100% sure, but certainly it was a heavy impact for Frank Gannett, and that will bring out the full course caution flags with just under 40 minutes remaining in this race. Well, Priest, right before we had that full course yellow here, Ian James and the Pinos Avisano did a drive-through penalty for that incident responsibility with the contact with Harry Gottsecker in his Racers Edge Motorsports Center 1. He did serve his penalty, and that's going to really help him and Jay Buford, who both had drive-through penalties, kind of bunch that field back up here as soon as we get Frank Gannett's car cleared off, to give him more of a chance to catch back up here. Well, it would do, but Jay Buford clearly had some damage in that earlier incident, because he appears to be, he's several laps down, and I don't think he's running at the moment. But as the race leaders come across the start-finish line now under caution, greatly reduced speed. Still Lawson Aschenbach from Gabriele Piano, who set the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap before this full course caution, a 1:19.256. That is a new lap record here for GTS. And that whoever sets the fastest lap of today's race will start on the pole position for tomorrow. In fact, the grid positions for tomorrow morning's second round of the GTS Championship will be set according to each car's fastest lap during this 50-minute race.
So it's Drew Stavely, still the teammate of Frank Gannett, who now runs in third position ahead of George Kurtz in the 04 car. Those two are first and second in GTSA, the non-professional drivers. Vinny Allegretta in fifth position in car number 10. That's on the PF Racing Ford Mustang, so he's kind of picking up the slack left by Jade Buford, who was involved in that incident a little while ago. Jason Bell from Tampa, Florida in sixth position now in the M1 GT Racing Audi. Good job, good run by Jason here this afternoon. Shane Lewis up to seventh from Jupiter, Florida. Then the Texan Toby Grahovec in the number 26 BMW. Mike Headland, number 45 Audi. And Nate Stacey up inside the top 10 now in the Core Motorsports Ford Mustang.
You talked about that damage that Jay Buford had before. Just got that PF Racing Ford Mustang. Just got word on pit lane that Ford Mustang Jade Buford that you mentioned, that earlier damage, suspension damage, has to retire from the race. So devastating for his championship run as he was looking to get his way started off right here in St. Petersburg. As you see, Marco Radisek, that number 22 precision driving BMW M4 GT4, one of these new GT4 platforms here in the Pirelli World Challenge with that M4. Of course, Marco, based out here in Sarasota, Florida, ran GT Cup here last year in his Ferrari 458 GT3 Italia, and now he's racing in that new GT4.
Yes, he is.
Some local to cheer, including Jason Bell. What a superb drive, sixth place in that M1 GT Audi R8 LMS, who ran the Sin R1 team last year in his rookie season, and now sitting here in sixth place. Superb drive for him.
Certainly is. He had an eighth place finish in the opening round of the championship here 1 year ago, did Jason Bell, but now running, as you say, in the top six. So an improvement from last year. A really good job by Jason there in sixth position. And just mentioned Nate Stacey, number 52 Ford Mustang, back in the 10th position at the moment. But we know Nate's fast. He's still only 18 years of age. He was the youngest ever pole sitter and race winner in PWC history, Pirelli World Challenge history, back in how many years ago now? That was 4 years ago. I guess he was 14, wasn't he?
14 years old.
Remarkable.
He made his debut in a Ford Fiesta B-Spec car, actually.
B-Spec, that's right, yes. Indeed, he's worked his way up the ladder in Pirelli World Challenge, now in the GTS category, and with Core Motorsports, that Ford Mustang. They had some problems yesterday. They broke a drive shaft in the first session and cost him a lot of track time, and he wasn't happy at all for qualifying this morning. The car was understeering much more than he'd appreciated, so they made wholesale changes to the setup of that car coming into this race. So hopefully it's somewhat better for Jason Bell. Just looking at his best lap in the race so far. It's a 121.3, which is on a par with pretty much all the cars from fourth place on back. Because it's the two leaders are the only cars in the 19s. Drew Stavely in third position, his best lap, a 120.6. That's a big margin from the first two to the rest of the field.
Looking to see where I see James Sofronis is back in the 15th position, running in second place a little or third place a little bit earlier on with that incident with Jade Buford. He's recovered and worked his way back up. This is going to be a huge help to him with this yellow flag to see if he can work his way back through the field. Did you see a good shot of James in that Global Motorsports Group Audi R8?
And he has set the third fastest lap of the race so far, James Sofronis, in at number 14 Audi, running in the 15th position, 120.1. Also almost identical, 120.2 for Ian James. You were talking about just a few moments ago, and at number 50, Penos Avanzano. That's another driver that had a drive-through penalty a little while ago. He's back in a 20th position in car number 50, so he's got a lot of work to do, but as we saw last year, that car is super fast, and he's now going to have an opportunity to move his way through the field when we get back to green.
Going to have to check out and see what we have for Frank Gannett in that Ginetta G55. Ian Lacey Racing, 3 cars strong with Steve Burns and your third place now, first in our AM category, Drew Stavely. So good debut here in Pirelli World Challenge for them in the 2018 season. Then an abbreviated season last season with Frank Gannett and Drew Stavely, and then adding Steve Burns to the mix here for this season. That's a pretty good program they have based out in Utah Motorsports Campus, the old Miller Motorsports Park, and just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. So coming all the way to Florida for that race, and I think stop back by on the way to Texas for round number 2 in a couple weeks, and then back over to Utah. Nice little spring break trip here to Florida for that team.
Yeah, I'm sure they're hoping for rather better weather than we got right now, actually.
Speaking of which, do you have a jacket somewhere? I mean,
yeah, it's in the truck.
Oh, okay. Because woo. Look at a little.
I tell you what, the temperature suddenly dropped. It was fine for the GT race a little while ago, but all of a sudden the temperature dropped as the precipitation moved in, and still nothing more than a very light, a few spots here and there at the moment. Nothing significant, thankfully, and hopefully that rain will stay primarily to our south and give us it stays away for another half an hour or so. That'll be good, and then hopefully another 10 minutes before I get to the car. No, I'm fine, Michael. Thank you very much.
Oh, Michael Young. He's got 2 jackets, so Michael Young takes one of his jackets off and gives it to Jeremy Shaw here.
He was bright enough to bring his jacket, so he deserves to keep it.
He would lay it in a puddle for a lady and give it to an English gentleman in the broadcast booth. Michael Young, everybody. How about that? Good round of applause for him up here in our PA booth. Sitting here at the top of the grandstands, right on the front stretch, watching live at world-challenge.com and our YouTube channel. Follow along at World Challenge. Just search Pirelli World Challenge Championships on YouTube and our Facebook page. You can follow along on Instagram and Twitter as well. So a lot of good coverage here, all part of the Pirelli World Challenge. This race for the GTS competition you can see on our expanded coverage on CBS Sports Network March 24th at 9:30 Eastern time. So make sure you set your DVRs or your watch parties right now to check out our GTS competition March 24th, 9:30 Eastern on CBS Sports Network.
Lawson Aschenbach then it is who leads this race from Palm Beach Gardens in Florida over on the east coast of the state. 24 wins to his credit in the Pirelli World Challenge coming into this weekend. 114 starts. That's a pretty stout win ratio, isn't it? 24 out of 114. And also a 5-time champion in the Pirelli World Challenge. Remarkably, for 4 different manufacturers. He's won the championships for Porsche, for Cadillac, for Chevrolet, and for Honda. That's a remarkable statistic for Lawson Aschenbach. Still only 34 years of age as well, and does an awful lot of racing. He's out there hustling away, trying to get rides in all sorts of different series. Huge amount of experience. He, like many of these drivers, started out in open wheel cars, but has found a home in sports car racing and has made a really, really good career for himself.
Yeah, not even in other series he's trying to find rides. He's trying to do it here. He's trying to see if he can get himself a GT ride for the Long Beach Grand Prix coming up in the middle of April. So it's a lot of moving and shakers, and you cannot really have, I think, a better brand ambassador for your race team or car than Lawson Aschenbach. Doing such a great job here in that Black Dog Speed Shop. There's number 1 on the side of that Camaro for a reason, and with all 7 categories amongst the Pirelli World Challenge, the team or driver that collects the most points amongst all the classes gets the distinguished of that number 1 panel, and that was Lawson Aschenbach's team last season. He got more points than any other team across all the categories. So I think it's sort of easy to do once you split up the GT category with the Sprint and the Sprint X now. So Lawson able to do that, and I think we're looking at the stats here. I think he only finished off the podium a few times all season long.
Yeah, 12 times out of 18 races last year for Lawson Aschenbach. Only 2 wins. It took him to round 11 before he finally won a race, and he also ended up the season with a victory at Sonoma Raceway as well. So it was a great year all around for Lawson. You'd have certainly liked more than 1 win going into the final race of the season, but it looks a lot more respectable on your resume when you've got 2 wins to your credit when you come away as the champion. But it was a remarkable consistency. The first 10 races of the season, or first 12 races of the season, only once did he fail to finish on the podium, and that indeed was a 5th place finish as well. So it was that consistency along with his speed that won that 5th Pirelli World Challenge title for Lawson Aschenbach. He's looking to get this 2018 season underway in the same vein as well. Out in the lead of this race, still under caution, just under half an hour remaining now in this race, but plenty of time for us to get back to green. I don't think it'll be too long before the yellow flags are withdrawn and we get back to racing. The lights are still on that classic BMW at safety car at the front of the field, but everybody else itching to get back to racing action behind them.
There's that number 72, 74 Ranch Racing is Shane Lewis, 2 cars strong with Gar Robinson behind him, and the number 74, new addition here to the Pirelli World Challenge. Good to have them show up and all season long campaign. And another driver that we talk about, Shane Lewis, driving pretty much everything that has wheels, was the Palm Beach International Raceway ambassadors, so to speak, there at the Radical Driving School, giving rides around in nearby Florida. And like I said, 2-car program strong with the young Gar Robinson behind the wheel of the 74.
Yep, son of the team principal, George Robinson, who had a long history in sports car racing as well. I think amongst his many things was a victory at Sebring for George back in the day, I think.
And I believe Shane's had some success around here too, back in the mid-90s, running a variety of different cars. That weird, Mosler or something like that he ran in the mid-90s, or Mosler, I think. Crazy cars, but it's neat to see Shane Lewis still out here and joining in the Pirelli World Cup. Ran the Trans Am Series the last couple of years and still racing in the Trans Am Series this season. So, man of many talents, Shane Lewis, glad to have a part of Pirelli World Challenge.
Yeah, finished third in the Trans Am 2 category last season, and he made his debut in the Pirelli World Challenge way back in '96 when he drove one of the Mosler cars, which were also built in Florida, weren't they? He had some success in those cars, one at Minneapolis. Actually had 3 wins that season, the last one coming at Sonoma. That was his most recent win in the championship way back in 1996. Still struggling to get Frank Gannett's car onto the flatbed. I think that car might need before it's got brought back to the pits. It's been a long day for all of our corner workers here. Thanks to everybody there and all of the volunteers who make it possible for us to go racing here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
Saw the damage to Frank Gannett's car. He was sort of stuck in the wall. They got the car free. They tried to tow it as they lifted it up and pull it. They were not able to do that, and now they decided they needed to get the rollback because the damage was a little too extensive on the back of his Ginetta G55. And I got a chance actually in the off-season to go to Ginetta factory in Leeds, England. And that was a pretty cool trip to get to go there and tour their facility and see where they build these cars. They actually have a street version of the G55 that they sell in Europe. And they have a whole cup class, and they also have a young teen driving race class as well with the Ginettas. So it's pretty neat to see, all the way to an LMP 3, 2, and 1 now that they're building with Ginetta. So it was a cool trip and a cool tour. I was glad to be there, and really appreciate Ginetta doing that for me.
Yeah, that's right. Ginetta really does do a lot for the development of young drivers. There's a youngster who's competing in the USF 2000 Championship this weekend, making his debut this weekend. Jamie Caroline, who came up through the Ginetta Junior Series. He won that a couple of years ago. He won last year's British Formula 4 Championship, and then did a very late deal. I mean literally, the deal was done last weekend. He'd never driven one of the USF 2000 cars before this weekend here on the streets of St. Petersburg. And then halfway through the qualifying session yesterday, he was on the provisional pole position. Unfortunately, that's the good news, because he then hit the wall and ended up qualifying, I think, 7th or 8th. But in this morning's race, he got it up to 2nd place and then hit the wall again. But still, the point is that Ginetta has a very stout young driver program, and there's a lot of really, really talented drivers who come up driving Ginetta Junior cars.
And even in our Pirelli World Challenge Series, young Parker Chase, Harry Gottsecker got their start here in Pirelli World Challenge in Ginettas. So it's like you said, that what they've done for the young drivers and moved them up. And it's good to see, as it looks like we did get Frank Gannett's car on the back of the rollback. That'll get cleared. Not sure where the cars are on the track right now behind our safety car. Of course, the BMW M4 GTS, driven by our own Dan Goodman behind our pace car today. I want to appreciate BMW for giving us that BMW, and classic BMW supporting that car as well.
Yeah, I wish you told me he was only going to do 1 pace lap rather than 2 before the start, so I didn't get through the grid before. My apologies for that. I was taking my time. Should have known better, shouldn't I? I've been around this sport long enough.
You never know. You never know. Subject to change without notice at any time.
Absolutely right. Let's get it underway. Maybe during the one fewer lap in order to try and get in before the rain comes. I don't know. Anyhow, still under caution. Probably with a bit of luck, just 1 more lap before we get back to racing, I would hope. But it's still race being led by Lawson Eichenbach in that number 1 Black Dog Speed Shop Chevrolet Camaro GT4 car. Made its debut here last year with a pair of 2nd place finishes, including the pole for Lawson Eichenbach, which then was a new track record in qualifying. It's he who leads now from Gabriele Piana in 2nd place, number 21 Porsche. 3rd place Drew Staveley in the Ginetta G55 car, number 12, leading the AM category ahead of George Kurtz, who's right behind him in 2nd place in AM, and 4th position overall in car number 04. That's an Audi. Behind him, Vince or Vinny Allegretta in car number 10, a Ford Mustang. Behind him, the local driver from Tampa, Florida, Jason Bell, in the Audi car number 2. Then Shane Lewis from Jupiter, Florida, car number 72. That's the Mercedes GT4. Toby Grahovec in the BMW car number 26. Mike Headland in the Flying Lizard Audi car number 45. And Nate Stacey in the number 52 Mustang round out the top 10. In the back, beyond the outside of the top 10, Jeff Courtney in car number 99. That's the Maserati. Then Tony Gaples, who finished second in last year's GTSA category in a Chevrolet Camaro car number 11. Then another Florida resident, Marko Radozic, in car number 22. That's another BMW.
Pace car lights are off. 21 minutes to go, probably when they cross the line here. Getting ready to go back underway. Green flag coming out as they enter the acceleration zone. VP Fuel coming up here as they come down the pit straight here, or the runway, so to speak, and go to take off. Getting the green flag here. We'll enter our VP Fuel acceleration zone. Will be Lawson Aschenbach. It's his decision when he wants to go, when he's in that zone.
He's out of here.
Does. Green flag, and he is gone. Boy, Gabriel Panini really, Piana got kind of held up a little bit. Drew Staley, look at the run George Kurtz does down to the inside.
Yeah, Drew Staley left it a little bit late there to block to the inside. Kurtz, is he going to be able to hold it together at the apex of the corner? He slides a little bit wide, no, loses both of those positions again, but a great move by George Kurtz. Wasn't able to complete it, but that was a bold move down to the inside. It's now Stavely back into third place, but Lawson Aschenbach, that was a clinic of how to restart a race here to the Swiss-Italian for Gabriele Piana, and a huge lead as they came across the line for Lawson Aschenbach.
You see the battle with Mike Headland, Nate Stacey, and right in front of him, I believe that was, I'm not sure who dropped all the way back there. I think Vinny Algaretta got a terrible start as he goes all the way back to the 9th position when he was up there in the top 5.
Yeah, Mike Headland, I think, was a bit of a, he made maybe 1 or 2 places as well. This car looks very similar, actually, doesn't it, though, to George Kurtz. It is silver and red opposed to white and red, but in this light, they look very similar indeed, those two Audi R8 LMS GT4 cars. In the meantime, they're coming off the final corner, heading towards the start-finish line. To complete lap 18 is Lawson Aschenbach with a pretty handy margin now, with a couple of seconds over Gabriele Piana. Drew Stavely hanging right there in third place. George Kurtz in fourth. In fifth now is Jason Bell, the local driver, ahead of Shane Lewis. Behind Shane Lewis, Toby Grahovec in the best of the BMWs, and Vinny Allegretta, as you say, dropped 4 positions on that lap, back to the 8th or 9th positions ahead of Mike Headland and Nate Stacey.
Ian James picked up 6 positions on that first lap after the caution flag, going back into the field. He had moved his way back up to about 18th after that drive-through penalty, and then the car stopped on the front stretch during the pace lap. He got the car refired and back underway, but that put him all the way to the back as Mark Clinton a little deep into the braking zone in his premier copier McLaren 570S GT4. Not sure if he's having a braking problem there, but he was able to get back underway. Big scary moment for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, new colours on that car this season. There's Ian James. He seems to be off the pace, doesn't he, at the far end of the racetrack? Yes, he is. Number 50, Penos Avanzano GT, is off the pace. Slows dramatically going through turns 7 and 8. He's going to try and get that car.
Continued through 7 and 8. He is off.
Car on the racetrack. Is he on the racetrack, or is he able to get it off? I hope he'll be able to get it off the racing line. Right now, though, that's in a pretty dangerous location on the apex, right before the apex of turn 8.
You can see him trying to restart that car, the lights going on and off, trying to get it re-going. Not sure if that's going to happen, but working hard to make it happen.
Really good lap there from Gabriele Piana, right down in the 19s, 1:19.9 that time for Piana. That he closed up more than a second on Lawson Aschenbach on that lap. He's still about a second behind him, but he pretty much halved the deficit last time around. James Sifronis also making his move up the order as well, up into 12th place now, having taken the restart in, I think he was, where was he, 15th was he, or somewhere back down the order, and that number 14 car of James Sifronis now creeping closer towards the top 10 again, having been involved in an incident in turn 1 earlier in the race.
And he's right behind Jeff Courtney. Of course, Jeff Courtney racing in that X Analytics Kinda Rexstuff.com Maserati. Gran Turismo, so to speak, is what they call that car, the Maserati. And Jeff Courtney's campaigned this car for about 3 seasons now in the Maserati. And side by side, as they were down in turn number 1, Courtney just closed the door before. Now Safranis gets back there. Courtney going back to the outside, seeing if he can make the move. Does not want to give up that position as Ian James was able to get his car back underway, but race officials calling him in. They want him to look at that car in pit lane to make sure it's all right before that. And Gabriel Piana is starting to close the gap a little bit to Lawson Aschenbach. Now he's got it down to just a little over a second.
Yeah, both of those two leaders now in the 19s last time. 1 minute 19.6 for Piana. Aschenbach at 1:19.8, so able to stem the tide a little bit on that last lap. Aschenbach is having to push hard here to maintain that advantage. It's now down to just about 1 second between first and second, and a little bit of a gap back, a couple of seconds back to Drew Stavely in third, George Kurtz, and Jason Bell running superbly well in 5th position. And he's looking to score his best ever result, his previous best so far. He made his debut last season, but he is his best finish so far has been a 6th at VIR last year.
You see Shane Lewis under pressure by Toby Grahovic is coming down Wilton Boulevard here on the side of the marina. Grahovic, these are 2 of those brand new GT4s. Of course, with Grahovic in that BMW M4 GT4 right behind that 74 Ranch Racing machine of Shane Lewis as they come down through the chicane into turn number 14. Hard on the brakes, and down there, as you see, Mike Hedlund now, Nate Stacey, James Safranis. The battle really heating up there, and I got to think Shane Lewis maybe holding that line up a little bit as they come down the straightaway here.
Yeah, from 6th on back, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, all across the line just like that. So there's very little to choose between any of those cars. A whole bunch of different machinery out there as well. There's a Mercedes, there's BMW, there's Ford, there's Audi, there's Maserati as well, and the Chevrolet of Tony Gables, a big long train of cars.
And now Shane's not, I don't mean to say he's holding them up, it's just that car does not look happy under the braking area or under acceleration, stepping out a little bit. And that's a brand new car for that team, still trying to get acclimated through it. We know Shane can do that behind the wheel. He's still doing a good job to defend that position against Toby Grahovic. James Safranis working his way through. He's right behind Nate Stacey. Nate's got his own battle going on with Mike Hedlund. It's that big battle now from, like you said, all the way back to 7th, all the way to 12th.
Yeah, Safranis trying to make his way forward, isn't he? And there he's Nate Stacey defends the inside position down into turn 10. No way through there for Safranis. Meanwhile, the 2 leaders come across the line one more time. They're stretching their legs now, pulling away from Drew Stavely in 3rd position. And 2 really good laps there by the leaders. Lawson Aschenbach at 1:19.469 almost matches his best lap of the race so far. And Gabriele Piana pretty much does the same. 1 minute 19.266, just 100th away from his fastest lap of the race set by anybody so far in this contest. With what now? We're under 14 minutes remaining in this race.
Yeah, Piana has closed the gap a little bit. The Cayman steps out a little bit there through the bumps, pushing as hard as he can in that Mueller Motorsports H&R Springs Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR. Talk about a title for a race car. That was a heck of a one with those Porsche Caymans. We saw those cars campaigned last season by Flying Lizard Motorsports in the Porsche Caymans, and now Mueller Motorsports and then Pfaff Automotive campaigning as well for Fiona. So it's pretty neat to see these cars competing on that GT4 level, and that Porsche Cayman is the bar that is set for this category. So if you're a little faster than the Cayman, they slow you down. If you're not as fast as the Cayman, they kind of speed you up. So that's sort of the baseline vehicle for this GT4 category.
That's right, but that Porsche Cayman, it looks small in comparison to the Chevrolet, and indeed it is. It weighs about 200 pounds less than the Chevrolet, and that particularly in warmer conditions will take more of a toll on a heavier car in terms of its tyres. The Porsche are able to look after its tyres a little bit better, but with the cooler conditions right now, that's certainly playing into the hands of Lawson Aschenbach, and he's doing a superb job. He's just actually turned the fastest lap of the race as our race leader, Lawson Aschenbach, as we see one of the Audis running a little bit wide in turn 1.
It is James Safranis. Earlier, he had a problem, backed off, lost 3 positions, came down in turn number 1 and completely blew the corner and had to get back underway. So not sure if he's having braking problems there in his Audi, but trying to see if he can recover. He's slotted in between Tony Gaples, the team owner at Black Dog Speed Shop, with their overall leader, Lawson Aschenbach, and then Marco Radicic in his BMW M4 GT4.
So just a second between our race leaders, Lawson Aschenbach and Gabriele Piana. That new fastest race, that new lap record for Lawson Aschenbach, a 1:19.201. That is a really good lap at this stage in the race in particular, but still there's just 4 or 5 car lengths between them as they head off towards turn 1 one more time. Clearly though, the Chevy Camaro able to stretch its legs on the straight, pull out a little bit, then under braking, a much lighter Porsche pulls up onto the tail, onto the wing of that Corvette, but not quite close enough to look for a way past. Jason Bell pretty much on his own now in 5th position, but next in the road is Shane Lewis. He certainly isn't on his own because he's got a train of 4 or 5 other cars right in his wheel tracks.
Oh, what a battle for the lead now as it's starting to heat up as Gabriele Piana right on the back bumper now of Lawson Aschenbach here, trying to see. It seems Lawson gets off the corner a little bit easier. The torque of that Chevy Camaro against the lighter, nimble Porsche Cayman. The Porsche able to mid-corner and better downforce as he comes down through these exit or middle of the corner, but Lawson just has that torque coming off. I think Piana's going to have to make a big move if he's going to want to get around Lawson Aschenbach.
Yeah, and is he going to upset the street? Because I don't think we've had a pole sitter today who's won a race. In fact, we haven't. So Piana, he started on the pole here for this race, but he's running in 2nd place now, and he will know, even though this is his debut in the Pirelli World Challenge, he will know that Lawson Aschenbach is a really stout competitor, and Lawson Aschenbach will not want to give away a victory in any way, shape or form. He'll be trying as hard as he can to maintain that number 1 position.
Push the cars down through turn number 3, back onto the straightaway. You see them move a little bit. There's a big bump right there if you're right up against the wall. Drivers turn away from that as Piana, this is where that Porsche is shining now, under braking and the tight turns back and forth. The transitions get over through that bump right on the back bumper, and then once he gets over here back onto the straightaway, you'll see Lawson Aschenbach stretch it out a little bit. So it really might take a mistake from Lawson, or Piana's going to have to be really close to the Camaro coming down the straightaway to try to get that draft.
Yeah, maybe outbrake him into turn 1, but as you say, that torque of the Chevrolet is crucial coming off the final couple of corners and onto the main runway here, which acts as a start-finish straight. But another great lap by Lawson Aschenbach. He's really been pushed to the limit here. 1:19.3 last time around, just a 1/10 of a second away from his fastest lap of the race set on the previous tour around. Under braking once again, the Porsche came and closes right in on the tail of the Chevy, and then stretching its legs on the straight, the gap 2 lengths, 3 lengths, 4 lengths, probably half a dozen lengths or more as they come across the stripe. But as they head into turn 1, we're able to see there how much closer they are at the apex of turn 1, less than a car length between them.
8.5 minutes to go here in our session as Piana under attack against the Camaro GT4 of Lawson Aschenbach, your 5-time Pirelli World Champion, defending champion in his Black Dog Speed Shop Chevy Camaro. Piana looking to the inside. I don't think you're going to rattle Lawson Aschenbach at all, but the youngster probably doesn't know that. But you see, Lawson Aschenbach knows how to get these races won. You said that earlier, Jeremy, and he's putting on a clinic here right now, just doing enough to stay in front of that Porsche.
Yeah, if he gets really brave down there at turn 4, it is certainly a potential place for Piana to make a move, because his car is going to be quite a bit quicker through turn 3, which is a very, very fast corner, and onto that straight, and he's able to carry that momentum through the corner. And if he can get really brave and perhaps lunge it down the inside under braking for turn 4, that might be one of the few opportunities he has. But Lawson Aschenbach, as I said, he's been around this place a time or two. He's won a few races here. He knows exactly what he needs to do to keep that Porsche behind him. We're inside 8 minutes now in this race.
Getting word that car 6-2, the McLaren of Mark Clinton, is off in turn number 4 in the runoff area. Because of the time here, they're letting him know that if he can get into a safer area would really be helpful, so we can keep under green here at the end.
Drew Stavely across the line there and into turn 1 in third place in the number 12 Ian Lacey Racing Ginetta, and about 15-20 car lengths behind him the second place car in the GTSA, George Kurtz in the 04 Audi. Toby Grahovic looking to the inside of the Robinson Racing Mercedes into turn 1 of Shane Lewis, unable to make that stick.
Gotten word that the number 22, Marko Radicic, was slow through turn number 10, and you can see he get back underway, but not sure what happened to him as he is falling all the way back. And that car does not sound right, so it sounds like a mechanical or electrical problem there. A big misfire as he came down the straightaway.
Yeah, lost a lot of positions on that lap, didn't he? And here's James Sofronis. James Sofronis has found him work his way up inside the top 10 again now. He just got past Nate Stacey on that lap, on that last lap. That's kind of a 14, James Sofronis. He was dicing right up at the front in the early stage of this race. As on this lap, Lawson Aschenbach is held up by a slower car coming off that final corner. Is that going to give an opportunity for Piana to make a move? Answer, no.
Yeah, no, Steve Burns in that Ginetta, and Piana right there. Steve, really being a lap car, kind of needs to get out of the way of the leaders coming through. Race control was talking to him there, and he really kind of took him all the way down to the end. Didn't quite give him there, but Lawson Aschenbach and Piana really dropped the ball. Now you can see he's dropped back about 4 or 5 car lengths. Now he's going to have to really push it here with a little over 5 minutes to go in the session here. But the battle on for this, once again, the 6th position now with Shane Lewis, Toby Grahovic, and Vince Algaretta.
Yeah, right behind them, Mike Headland and James Sofronis, and Nate Stacey's in that group as well. Sofronis got a good run there off turn 3. Is he going to make a move on the short chute down towards turn 4? He's looking to the inside. Is Sofronis? Yes, he makes that pass stick. 2 Audis there side by side into turn 4. It's Sofronis who comes out ahead of Headland. The battle for position on the racetrack, but not in the AM category. Headland is an AM, Sofronis is a pro. So Headland remains in the 4th place in AM, that category led by Drew Stavely in 3rd place overall. George Kurtz is 4th in the 2nd place car in that class, and Toby Grahovic 7th place overall in number 26 BMW.
We're trying to do the math here, looking at the times. Looks like we might have about 3 to 4 laps to go still in this race, and that's a long time around this 1.8 mile 14 turn course here for the Pirelli World Challenge, round number 1 for our GTS and GTSA competitors. As you see, Vinny Algaretta in the Mustang, James Sofronis down to the braking zone. Oh, and James really hit him a little deep there, and Vinny kind of got cut out a little bit. He's going to be at risk for losing another position right behind him as Mike Headland now pressuring Vinny Algaretta in that PF Racing Ford Mustang.
And again, the Audi a little bit lighter. It weighs in at 3,483 pounds. It's about 70 pounds lighter than the Ford Mustang, and I think a little bit more nimble, able to make that move down the inside under braking for turn 1 was James Sofronis. Every time the 2 leaders are battling away, they've this time again had a little bit of lap car trouble coming off that final corner for Lawson Aschenbach. We're once again using that grunt of the V8 power to extend his lead on the main straight over Gabriele Piana. 1 more lap in the lead. 30 laps now completed by our race leaders. 3.5 minutes remaining.
When we talk about that race number 2, fastest race lap right now still goes to your leader right now, Lawson Aschenbach, at a 1:19.201. So Lawson Aschenbach so far a provisional pole for race 2 tomorrow. Now is that chance to, you know you're not going to win, you know you're not going to be on a podium. You only got a couple laps left here. Let's see if we can get a good lap to get a good starting position for tomorrow. But if you're these 2 guys, you're battling it out as Piana right on the back bumper of Aschenbach coming through this tight section of the road course here.
Yeah, the north end of the racetrack there, the Porsche, so much more nimble than that big, heavy, rumbling V8 Chevrolet. Piana closes right up on the tail through those corners at the far end, but they get onto that straight there alongside the waterfront, and the Camaro pulls away again. It's going to be the same down here into 13 and 14. Piana in the Porsche is going to get closer and closer. Easy though, going to drop back just a little bit like you were suggesting, give himself an opportunity to try and set the fastest lap of the race. and ensure the pole position for tomorrow. I think he's still got his mind on trying to get the victory, though, hasn't he?
Well, it's only 55 thousandths of a second's difference in lap time between these two drivers as they're ready to try to get that done here. As you see a battle here with the number 23. K-Sit Motorsports, Adam Mirzon in his Audi R8, and Gar Robinson in that 74 Ranch Racing machine as they're battling for positions that go through. Getting word, white flag next time by for car number 1. Lawson Aschenbach will be getting that white flag. One more to go this next time by for your race leader. So Piana is going to have to try to make a move here. He's going to have about a lap and a half to go.
The leader's lapping very consistently in a 1:19. There's George Kurtz.
Yeah, 4th place overall. 2nd in our AM category is George Kurtz with a flat left rear tire. Not sure what happened there, but the guy that was running in your 2017 champ in our GTS AM category with a flat tire right at the end of the race. Devastating way to start your championship.
Certainly is. White flag waves, though. There's about 10-12 car lengths between the first and second place cars that go underneath the white flag. This will be the final time around. Just 1.8 miles to go for Lawson Aschenbach, looking for win number 25 in his Pirelli World Challenge career. Those 2 miles ahead. Here comes the third place car now. Is Drew Stavely across the line. He goes to take the white flag. A big gap back from him also to now it'll be Jason Bell, won't it, in 4th position with George Kurtz having that problem. Yes, indeed it is. And Jason here now, not too far ahead of the Robinson Racing Mercedes of Shane Lewis, who's got James Safronis sniffing around the rear end of that car as well. He wants the way past. The battle for 5th and 6th.
Looking at Piana here in that Porsche. He's got a bit of a gap now down here in the braking zone. He's looking to have about 2 more corners to try to make this happen. Lawson Aschenbach turning the wick up a little bit, though, on that Camaro, trying to stay ahead of this Porsche. James Pesic in the Mustang right in front of them. Not sure if lap traffic's going to play a hand here in turn number 14. Doesn't look like it. It will be Lawson Aschenbach coming onto the front stretch. Piana got way in the braking zone, but this torque of this Camaro across the line, it's going to be Lawson Aschenbach, your 2017 champion, race winner here today.
Just half a second between those 2 cars on the checkered flag. Another fantastic drive there for Lawson Aschenbach. Once again, and the pole sitter doesn't come away with the victory, but it's a 2nd place finish for Gabriele Piana this afternoon. Lawson Aschenbach will win. And now waiting for the 3rd place car of Drew Stavely, who will be the GTSA winner. Across the line he goes for Ian Lacey Racing. A tremendous result for that team with that little Ginetta G55. Fine drive by Drew Stavely into the 4th position overall. The best result of his career. Tampa Bay's Jason Bell. And across the line it's James Safronis. Did make that move for 5th place on the last lap. But Shane Lewis holds on to 6th ahead of Vinny Allegretta, Mike Headland, Nate Stacey, and also Jeff Courtney was right in that battle as well, along with Tony Gaples. There's nose to tail all the way from 4th position effectively through 11th to 12th.
Well, you see the AM category, you go all the way back to Jeff Courtney. So Mike Headland getting 2nd place in the GT AM category, and then Jeff Courtney getting 3rd in our GTS AM category in the Maserati with a 10th place overall finish. So that's your 1st, 2nd, 3rd in our AM. Drew Stavely, Mike Headland on the podium. 50 cents per Twitter follower donated to a local charity now. Please start sharing that. Follow Mike Headland. He's got a little over 3,000 now, so that's a little over $1,500 going to a local charity.
Excellent. Good for you, Mike. Really, really good. Great drive as well. First time out in this Audi R8 LMS GT4 car. James Safronis too. What a comeback drive that was in car number 14. He was dicing right up amongst the podium position at the beginning of the race, involved in an incident down in turn 1. Had to rejoin at the back of the field. Came all the way through to finish in 5th position. That's James Safronis in the GMG car number 14.
Well, looking at The final race results, once again, congratulations to Lawson Aschenbach for your race winner today. Gabrielle Piana, second place in our pro category, third place in our pro, fourth overall, Jason Bell. In our AM category, it was Drew Stavely in his Jannetta G55, second place going to Mike Hedlund in that Flying Lizard Audi R8. And then how about in that X Analytics, Kinda, Rick Stuff, Maserati, Jeff Courtney from the JCR Racing team. So, well, Jeremy, I'm not going to keep us here, keep going. You're about to freeze here and be a little popsicle, so we'll go ahead and let all the fans know how much we appreciate watching along worldwide at world-challenge.com. Please join us again tomorrow for round number 2 of our GTS class, as well as our GT, to close out our weekend here at the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of St. Petersburg.
It's Joseph Newgarden, the